Homemaker Helen Jorg is suing her former friends, 27-year-old daycare provider Larissa Roberts and her boyfriend Paul Dukin, for the return of pictures and family heirlooms. Larissa and Paul are countersuing for storage fees and pain and suffering.
Yeah, this is case number 202 on the calendar in the matter of Jorg versus Roberts Dukin. All right, have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Ms. Jorg, the defendants were friends of yours, according to your complaint, and there came a time when you were being evicted from your apartment. You stored some things at their home, according to you. The storage lasted a little bit longer than anticipated. When you called and said you wanted your stuff back, they say it's gone. When did you start to store your property at the defendant's house?
In March, my apartment building had gotten sold, and a new owner came out, took over.
Let's keep it simple. March of 2003, you were being evicted.
Yes.
When did you have to get out of your apartment?
I went to court and stuff, and I had to get out till June 16th.
And where were Miss Roberts and Mr. Duncan supposed to store your things?
She was over helping me, and she said that she could help me store my stuff for nothing. I was in a hard time, and she had the money to help me, that she could help me.
I want you to answer my questions. Where was she supposed to store your property?
In a storage shed behind her house.
Is that right?
It's my shed on my property.
And did you move the property to your house and the storage shed, or just the storage shed?
To the storage facility, because people...
What do you mean the storage facility? That's where we're coming into a problem.
Into a storage unit.
When did you move the property from your house into a commercial storage facility?
The same day.
Why?
Because I couldn't fit it in my shed.
Did you tell her that?
Yes, I did.
No, she didn't.
Yes, it was discussed.
No, you did not.
So you moved her things from your house, where you said that you would store it, and your shed, into a commercial facility the same day you got the stuff?
Yes.
You have the bills from the storage facility?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see them. Well, this says that on the 16th of June, she started a storage facility, and that September of 2003, some 3 months later, was the last month that the property was there. Is that right?
Yes.
When did you find out that
Your Honor, I went by her house on June 21st on a Saturday, and I went to go see if I could use the telephone, and I pulled up in her driveway, and her little daughter was in the window. I went and knocked on the door, nobody came, and up in her driveway behind the fence sat all of my stuff out in the rain.
You saw that?
Yes, I did.
So what did you do when you saw that?
I went to the door and I knocked, nobody answered. She called and left a message on my phone. My message told me not to come to her house without calling before I came up.
If you saw your property that was out in the rain, why
I couldn't get back behind there. It was locked and she wasn't home.
Just a second. You get the police and say, she has my property, it's being ruined, I want to take it, and I'll put it in a storage facility.
Right. Well, I didn't have the money at that time to do it, and she offered to do it for nothing. And Michelle here knows that she was in the house that day that I knocked on the door.
She may have been in the house when you knocked on the door, but what I'm saying to you is, if you say you saw your property on that day, why didn't you get your property off her property?
I had no way of even hauling it, in my car. I had no way of doing it. And I tried calling her on August 2nd.
Well, what did you think she was going to do with it after the 25th?
She was supposed to put it in her storage unit. Every time she took stuff over there, I said, do you have enough room? Yes, we're rearranging. It'll all fit in there. Soon
after she took your stuff, you knew that it wasn't in a storage shed behind her house, and it wasn't in her house. What did you do between June and September to get your stuff?
She said everything was safe, put away, and it wasn't sitting out there.
But you knew that that wasn't true.
No, I went back by, and it was not there anymore. And I called on August 2nd.
I'm not talking about August. I'm talking about June.
I know,
July.
but August 2nd, I called to get my stuff back because I was ready to get my stuff and move it. And she wouldn't let me have it.
Okay. Step up here, please.
Michelle?
Tell me your name.
Michelle Delker.
You know anything about this?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to hear what you know about it.
I was over at Paul and Larissa's on a weekend, and she was talking to Helen, and I overheard a conversation that she was willing to help Helen with packing and moving, and she knew Helen didn't have the money to get a storage shed, and so they were going to help her out and get it for her.
For how long?
Until she got on her feet.
What if it took 5 years? How long? How old are you?
I was on for 2 weeks.
Shh. How old are you?
I'm 49.
When was the last time you were on your feet?
Just prior to, well, I lost my apartment in June, and then I got another place to live in August.
Prior to losing your apartment in June, madam, what you're telling me is that you didn't have $30 a month to give to a storage unit. It suggests to me that you hadn't been on your feet in a long time. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying.
Okay, so
but she knew what my income was, what I was getting, and she said that she had the money, and she told me she would do it for nothing. She wanted to help me out because she knew I had.
Would do what for nothing?
Store my stuff, and she
in a storage store your stuff in a storage facility.
At her house. No, at her house.
No. Listen to me. We're not going to play with each other. According to you, she said she knew you didn't have any money, and she was prepared to pay for the storage of your stuff because she was prepared to help you out that way.
Right.
Well, paying for it means in a commercial facility.
She had offered that, and I told her not to do it because I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it. And then she came over one day and said she had already rented it because they were going to use it, and that if she had to, she'd put some in there.
So that was after you saw your property out in her backyard, according to you, on June 25th. You can sit down now.
No, she offered the storage unit and said she had went and got it before I had seen it on her property.
So you knew then, Miss Jorg, that she was going to rent a storage unit to put your things in.
I didn't authorize her to put it in a storage unit.
What happened to her things?
They were in the storage unit. Come August, her boyfriend started calling and threatening me on my answer machine. He said that he didn't want to do anything to put him back into prison. I had to change my phone number.
Well, let me ask you this question. When she called for her stuff, what did you say to her?
I wanted reimbursed for the storage unit.
And how much was it that you wanted to be reimbursed?
$300.
How much did you pay for the storage unit?
It was about $300, all total, because there was late fees, because I couldn't pay it on the 1st of every month.
And how much of your stuff was in there?
Nothing.
And you're telling me that all these figures add up to $300, is that right?
I do believe so.
All right. When did you ask her for your property back in August?
I called her August 2nd, and I called her about 11:30, and
Is that true?
It was her and her boyfriend that was calling.
Was it around August 2nd?
Yes.
Okay, good.
But I called her.
So then I'm eliminating certain amounts of money, everything that was billed after August 1st, because you weren't entitled to $272 on August 1st. There was money added. So let's figure out what she owed you as of August 1st, if she owed you for this.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You sold Wayne the Hitachi, and he just paid the storage fees.
Yep.
You're a liar. Liar, liar, pants on fire.
And later today,
they had got mad at me because I switched babysitters, and so they called my mom and dad and told them that they needed to come get my stuff because they were kicking me out.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Helen George says former friends Larissa Roberts and Paul Dukin won't return her belongings. Larissa and Paul claim Helen wasn't paying her storage bill.
Okay. Now, at that point, she owed you maybe $138, and that is if I believed that there was nothing of yours in the storage shed. Something that I find it hard to believe, that you rented the storage shed for her and you didn't have any of your own stuff in there. But at that point, you know you $300, and you had already paid $138. You could have said, listen, go get your stuff, but I'm going to take you to small claims court and sue you for the $138. Instead, what you allowed to happen was you allowed all of her property to be gone.
I sold it to a friend of hers.
Your Honor,
Well, just a second. That's outrageous.
He paid for the storage unit.
Your
That's
Honor,
outrageous. Why didn't you just give it back to her?
Couldn't get in the storage unit unless I paid it.
In August? You had been paying in August, according to this bill that you gave me.
As of August 5th, it was late, and they wouldn't let us in.
She called you August 2nd.
She never showed up for the time that she agreed to meet us to get the stuff.
When did she agree to meet you? When?
I can't remember exactly what date it was.
Okay. What was the name of the friend who paid the storage unit?
His name
Wayne.
was Wayne.
You know that person?
yes, I do.
Have you spoken to Wayne?
Yes, I have, but he's in back in prison right now, and he did not buy the stuff.
All right. What stuff was in here?
20 years of my life, my personal stuff, I mean, everything. Michelle helped to get some of my pictures back and a few of my stuff back.
From Wayne?
Yes.
From Larissa.
She was seeing Wayne.
And Michelle's been over at Larissa's house. And
For the last 2 years, no.
Shh. Shh. Don't speak.
And Michelle told me that she's got stuff of some of my stuff in her house right now.
Like what?
She's got TVs, kitchen stuff.
No, I do not.
Pictures.
Were these things that were taken out of your apartment?
Yes.
What
She
kind
has
of
pictures.
televisions did you have?
I had a 46-inch Hitachi.
That was supposed to be in storage?
Yes.
It was. It was.
It was? And are you telling me that you sold Wayne the 47-inch Hitachi and he just paid the storage fees?
Yep.
No.
Don't believe you, my dear.
No.
You're a liar.
Everything
You're a
was in
liar.
there.
Liar, liar, pants on fire. What do you do for a living?
Daycare.
Somebody entrusts you with their children?
Yes.
What a mistake. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all.
About your stuff. The return of your stuff. The return of your stuff, Helen.
I thought she was a friend.
I didn't know her anything.
I find out later she intended to take my stuff all along.
I was just being a friend.
Friends don't do that to friends.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Lambert versus Jones. Step forward, please.
Nurse's assistant Jerry Lambert is suing her former friends, Kevin and Rhonda Jones, for stealing her DVD collection. Kevin and Rhonda are countersuing for unpaid babysitting fees and damages to their car caused by Jerry's 7-year-old daughter.
Miss Lambert, you and your children needed a place to stay. You were having some difficulty, and the defendants, according to your complaint, took you into their home with your children. When you left, which I gather were not under favorable circumstances, Mr. and Mrs. Jones kept some of your DVDs.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's what you're suing for the return of these DVDs. Mr. and Mrs. Jones acknowledge that they have the DVDs, but they say in their counterclaim that you owe them for some babysitting fees and some damage that your little girl did to one of their cars. How do you know them?
Well, they've been friends of mine for over the last few years.
How many is a few?
About 7.
And why did you need a place to stay?
Because I moved back from where I used to live in Independence, Kansas for my brothers and stayed over there at their house, and they said I could move in and stay with them until I found another place to live.
Did you call them and tell them that you wanted to move back to town?
They called me at my brother's house.
To say what?
That they wished that I would move back to town, and they missed seeing me and the kids.
Is that right?
Yes.
And you invited her to come to your home?
Yes.
That was very nice of them, right?
Right.
When did you arrive at their home?
The 28th of April.
And when did you leave their home?
The 19th of May.
Why?
Because I had gone to work and they had got mad at me because I switched babysitters from having Rhonda watch my kids to a different babysitter. And so they called my mom and dad and told them that they needed to come get my stuff because they were kicking me out.
And why did you switch babysitters?
Because my kids were getting yelled and screamed at their house. They weren't being able to go outside or nothing like that.
Now, you arrived there on April 28th. When did you start working?
About the following week after that.
So the first week in May.
Mm-hmm.
So you were working about 2.5 weeks.
Uh-huh.
That's the babysitting that you are requesting?
Yes.
Did you have an arrangement with her with regard to babysitting fees?
Yes, I did.
And what was that arrangement?
That she would watch my kids while I was at work.
And how much were you supposed to pay her?
She never told me.
Did you ask her?
No, I didn't.
Did you think you had to pay her something?
Yeah.
Well, how much were you planning on paying her?
It just depends on how much she was charging me.
How much are you paying the current babysitter for watching your children?
It just depends on how much she asked me for, because she's a friend of the family's.
Well, how much did she ask you for last week?
Last week I gave her $70.
And the week before?
I get paid every 2 weeks, so
2 weeks before that, how much did you give her?
$70.
So you give her $70 every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
What are your hours of work?
Anywhere from 2 in the afternoon till 10 at night.
So when somebody babysits for your children, they really are feeding them and putting them to bed, doing their homework with them. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, what arrangement did you have with Miss Lampert with regard to payment for babysitting?
Oh, I was charging her $1 an hour per kid.
Is that what you arranged with her, is my question, not what you were charging. So be very careful what you say to me, Miss Jones. Very careful.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jerry Lambert says former friends Kevin and Rhonda Jones won't return her DVD collection. Kevin and Rhonda claim Jerry's 7-year-old daughter vandalized their van.
Did you have an agreement with her to be paid $1 an hour per child?
Yes.
When did you make that agreement with her?
When she got a job and started work.
And when was that?
It was around, I started watching them, it was in May, around the 4th or 5th.
You watched the children for 2 weeks.
Right.
And how much do you say she owes you for the 2 weeks?
It was $134.
$134.
Right.
Okay, that's most reasonable. Did she give you any other money while she lived there?
She just gave us money for the utility bills.
She did. How much
Yes.
money did she give you?
The $150 for that month.
And what about food? Did she purchase her own food?
She was there for 2 weeks before she bought any food.
Okay. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now let's get to the damage. When do you allege that Miss Lambert's daughter, I assume this little girl over here, damaged your property?
We were sitting inside her uncle and aunt's house, and my daughter was outside playing with them, and she come to make it to our attention that the child over here was...
Well, you didn't see it.
Right.
Step up. Tell me your name.
Ashley.
Ashley, tell me about what happened.
I was outside playing and I went around the garage and I come back because I was trying to find a basketball. And I come over to Nixie and I looked over and I seen Jesselyn scratching on the side of the van with a rock. And I went in and ran to my mom and dad and found her and told
Did
them.
you tell her to stop?
Yes.
Did she stop?
No. Me and Nixie tried to get her off of the van, but she wouldn't listen. She said it was a chalkboard.
How old are you?
No.
How old are you?
7.
7. When did you tell the plaintiff about it?
She was present at the time that she come in and made it aware to all of us at the same time.
Remember that, Miss Lambert?
Yes, I do.
Did you talk to your little girl about it?
Yes, I did.
What did she say?
That she wasn't going to throw rocks at the vehicle again.
That she wouldn't do it again?
Mm-hmm.
So there really isn't a question that you're responsible for the damage to the truck, right?
Well, my daughter says she didn't throw rocks at their truck.
Can I see a picture of the truck, please? The only reason I ask you these questions is because you understand that if damage to your truck took place at a time when you were babysitting, that would have been your responsibility, even though it was her child, because you were supposed to be supervising her little girl. But if this didn't happen on your watch, but it happened on her mother's watch, it's her mother's problem. Mother has to pay for it. Oh, some nasty scratches. You have an estimate how much it's going to cost to polish
right
those
here
or
we
buff
have
them
an
out?
estimate.
Have you had the car fixed?
No.
Okay. You're not friends anymore, I assume.
No.
Why not?
I just don't want to be friends with people like them anymore.
They sounded like very nice people to me.
Well, you don't know them as quite as well as I do.
Well, they were really nice people. They invited you to come home and live with them. They said you could stay with them until you got on your feet. They opened their home to you. They provided you and your 3 children with food. Sounds to me like they're very nice people. In any event, you owe her $134 for babysitting, and I'm awarding them an additional $800 to have the car painted for a total of $934. Judgment for the defendant on the counterclaim. The plaintiff gets her DVDs back. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me, you may step out. This is case number 211 on the calendar in the matter of Snow versus Dean. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Miss Snow, you, according to your papers, were having an affair with Mr. Dean prior to and during the separation that he had with his wife.
Yes, ma'am.
According to your complaint, Mr. Dean, in order to ensure that his wife wouldn't get her hands on some of his property, had you take out a storage unit in your name.
Yes, ma'am.
Where he put his property. And you want him to pay all the storage fees that you paid on that unit.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, Mr. Dean says the storage unit was supposed to be in both your names, that he told you within a couple of months that he was reconciling with his wife, that he wanted his stuff back, that you refused to let him take his stuff back, and you allowed the fees to build up on this storage unit. He acknowledges he owes you about $100, and he is counterclaiming for all of his stuff. When did you separate from your wife, Mr. Dean? Give me the month and the year. Shh. Let me finish the question. Month and year.
February 2004.
Beginning, middle, or end of February?
Beginning.
And when did you move your stuff out of the house?
Before the 15th of February.
And is that when you asked Miss Snow to make arrangements for a storage unit?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, when did you reconcile with your wife?
In March.
Beginning, middle, or end?
In the middle.
We're still working on that, Your Honor. We have not gotten back together.
When in March did you tell Miss Snow that you wanted your property?
Actually, she found out that I was talking to my wife, and that's when she went ballistic.
Do you remember when that was?
It was around the middle, towards the end.
And how much was the storage unit?
It was $141 a month, and it went to $145.
Well, if you went ballistic and you stopped seeing him in March, why did you keep paying on the storage unit?
I paid, the first payment was done the 7th of February. The second payment was done around the 11th of March. That's when I stopped payment, when I found out he was with his wife.
Fine. So that's 2 payments of $141.
Right, I have the receipt.
That's $282. Why are you suing him for $1,000?
Plus, there is another outstanding of $577 that's owed on the storage unit now.
Why didn't, well, I understand that. Why didn't you allow him to get his stuff in March?
Because I went to him to get his stuff. I went to his father to pay me the money that he owed me, plus I went to his sister, and they all promised to give me the money.
When?
Around the end of March, before the next payment was due.
When did Mr. Dean call you and ask you for his property?
He never did call me.
Go ahead.
I had talked to him prior. My father had offered to pay her the money. My sister had offered to pay her the money. My wife had offered to pay her the money.
Yes, ma'am, I did.
I offered. She didn't want it because she was being vengeful.
She was angry because she went ballistic.
Yes,
so she
ma'am.
found out you were talking to your
That
wife.
was the whole case, yes.
That sound right, Miss Snow?
No, ma'am.
Well, he certainly owes you $282. He doesn't owe you any more. Where's his property?
It's in a storage unit.
Your Honor, the storage unit is being auctioned. She has the only keys to the storage unit. I offered to ask her to sign it over to me. I take over the payments.
When?
I would say we met the beginning of March, and I told her that I would take over the payments. She signed everything over to me. She said I was welcome to pay on it, but she was not signing it over to me, give me any keys, that she was keeping everything in her name until she got things worked out with Charles.
I went to both of them and said, when she came to me about the storage unit, she did not offer to pay me the money that was owed to me. She wanted me to give her the belongings without giving me the money that was owed to me. They could have had the keys. I don't want the stuff. It was appraised at $400 from the people in the storage unit.
So why don't you give them the keys?
They haven't given me my money.
Where are the keys?
Right here.
Give it to them.
Okay.
Good. There are the keys.
Ma'am, but the stuff is probably auctioned off by now.
Well, I don't know whether it is or whether it isn't.
Yes, ma'am.
You owe her $282.
Yes, ma'am.
And I find that you owe her $282 and not the $1,000 that she's asking
Yes,
for,
ma'am.
because I believe that after you and your wife started to talk again and you were reconciled, Miss Snow got angry. And she wasn't cooperative about you getting your stuff back. So if you let that stuff remain in storage, knowing full well that eventually they were going to auction it off, that's not right, Miss Snow. If, in fact, your stuff has been auctioned,
According to...
Listen to me. Listen to me. I don't know whether it has or whether it has not, and neither do you. So I'm going to allow you to withdraw without prejudice your counterclaim. If, in fact, your items were sold, you have a claim against her for maliciously withholding your property. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $282, and I'm allowing you to withdraw your counterclaim if, in fact, your items were sold. You can sue her for the full value of the items that you have receipts for.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I believe that she's upset because I broke the relationship off.
I am also married myself, and I wanted to make my marriage work.
We're still not together because I still believe that they're still having contact, regardless of what either one of them say.
I have not had any contact whatsoever.
My opinion is it's not going to end. It's going to continue.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Robinson versus Gorman. Step forward, please.
Plaintiff Anna Robinson is suing her former friend, water well driller Paul Gorman, for the return of a 1989 Chevy Blazer. Anna says Paul took possession when she went to prison for operating a meth lab.
Ms. Robinson, according to what I gather from your complaint, Mr. Gorman was a long-time friend of yours.
Yes.
And a trusted friend. And there was a period of time when you became incarcerated. You were incarcerated on more than one occasion. While you were incarcerated, you gave Mr. Gorman power of attorney to handle certain of your affairs, cash your checks, etc. During your second period of incarceration, it is your claim that Mr. Gorman appropriated a truck that belonged to you by misusing the power of attorney. You want the truck back or the value of the truck. Mr. Gorman says there is a very good reason why you can't have the truck back, and that's because he invested a substantial amount of money in the truck, including money to get it out of impound, where it was when you went to prison. That's your defense.
Yes, ma'am.
When was the first time you were incarcerated, Miss Robinson, when you gave Mr. Gorman the power of attorney?
98.
For what?
I was incarcerated for drugs.
And how long were you incarcerated?
16 months, I believe.
And when was the next time you were incarcerated?
July 12th of 2002.
And how long were you incarcerated?
For 3 years.
And that was for drugs also?
Yes.
When you were incarcerated in July of 2002, you had a truck?
Yes, ma'am.
What year truck did you have?
1989 Chevy Blazer.
And where was the truck when you were incarcerated?
I was driving the truck and it went to impound.
You were driving the truck at the time of your arrest?
Yes.
Were you transporting drugs in the truck at the time of your arrest?
Yes.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Why were they so nice to you?
We've been best friends for years. We've always helped each other out.
So why would you think that they would do something that's so sinister, according to you, stealing your property?
And later today.
About 8 months in the relationship, Mrs. Frilling told me she had feelings for another female. I called her and I told her if she don't come get her belongings, I'm gonna throw them out.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Anna Robinson says when she went to jail, former friend Paul Gorman took possession of her Chevy Blazer. Anna says Paul refuses to return the vehicle.
Did you ask him to get the truck out of impound?
Yes. I said if he got the truck out of impound, they could drive it for the duration of my sentence.
Was that the conversation that you had with her?
No.
You tell me your version of the conversation that you had with her.
She basically asked if we can get it out and stuff, and we didn't have the money ourselves. And then time, lapsed on. Then we finally got a notice. They gave us 1 week to impound. They're going to sell it. And then she said, if you guys can get it out, because I'm going to be gone for probably permanently, you guys can have it. And she mentioned to the neighbor, and she goes, well, I'll lend you the money if you pay me back, and I hold the title. I said, sure. So I have a notarized statement from her saying this is what happened.
Miss Robinson, what would have happened to the truck if Mr. Gorman didn't?
Well, it would have been lost.
So what difference does it make to you if he went and got the truck out?
Because it was my truck. I mean, he got it out for me.
That's not what he's saying. He's saying he called you and said they're going to sell the truck. I just got a notice. And he said what you said to him was, well, if you can get it out, it's yours.
I wrote him and them and asked him about the truck and various other things. How are you doing? What's up with the truck?
Well, do you have any letter from them indicating that they're taking care of the truck for you?
Nothing. They never wrote me back till the day before I got out of prison.
And then did they write you back?
They wrote me back and said, here's your address and here's our cell phone number.
What does that mean? Here's your address, here's your cell phone?
Because I wasn't sure where I was going to parole to. They were supposed to have moved within that 2-year period. And they never did end up moving.
Address.
Just a second. Why were they so... Shh, Miss Robinson, why were they so nice to you?
We've been best friends for years. We've always helped each other out.
So why would you think that they would do something that's so sinister, according to you, stealing your property?
That's why I was blown away. I couldn't believe they would do this to me.
Well, I don't want you to stop getting blown away, because I have to make a decision as to whether or not I believe him when he says... Shh, I'm speaking.
Sorry.
Whether I believe him when he says that you said to him, listen, do what you have to do. The truck's gone anyway. I can't get the truck out. If you have to borrow money from somebody, borrow money from somebody. He even says that he was prepared to give you the truck if you wanted it. When you got out, all you had to do was pay him the money that it cost him to get the truck out of impound, plus what he put into the truck. Did you say that to her?
Half, I'll sell for half of what I put into it. I'll cut that in half since I've used it.
And what did she say to you?
Basically, at first, she said yes. And then the next thing I know, a couple of days, she moved out, and I haven't spoke to her since.
The day I moved out was the day he told me I couldn't have my truck back. The very next day, I went to the DMV so I could do this legally to get my truck back. And they had already told me that the previous year, they took the title out of my name. A year after I was arrested.
I'm not talking about title back in your name. He said to you, give me the money that I...
And I agreed to that from the day one.
Did you give it to him?
No, I didn't have the money at the time. I was just out of prison. I wasn't a week out of prison.
Well, then you wanted your truck back without giving him any money.
I never demanded the truck that day. I told them they could keep using the truck because I realized they had work to do. They had to use their truck.
I suggest that you get a job, make some more money. The 1989 truck that he got out of impound is his. He paid for it. You would have lost it anyway. These were people that were very nice to you. No good deed goes unpunished. Do you understand?
Oh, yes.
The friendship is over?
Yes, I guess. I tried. My only was trying not to lose it.
Well, that's unfortunate. Anyway, your lawsuit's dismissed, Miss Robinson. That's all. Step out.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I bent over backwards, I think, every way I could, you know.
That's all I had left when I got out, and they knew that.
I even offered to just give back, knowing I probably never received the money.
It's more upsetting that I've lost two good friends.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Freeling versus Reed. Step forward, please.
19-year-old cashier Erin Freeling is suing her ex-boyfriend, 23-year-old landscaper Philip Reed, for disposing of all her belongings and for damaging their apartment. Philip is countersuing, claiming Erin stole his cat.
Miss Freeling, you and Mr. Reed used to live together.
That's true.
As boyfriend and girlfriend. You lived
Correct.
in an apartment, is that right?
That's correct.
At some point you had an argument, you left, and you claimed that Mr. Reed disposed of some of your property. And in addition, he damaged the apartment so that you didn't get whatever security deposit back you were supposed to. Mr. Reed says that he didn't cause any more than normal wear and tear in the apartment, and he was forced to dispose of your property because he would abandon the property there, and he had to get the property out because the lease was over. Is that right, sir?
Yes, correct.
Okay. When did you move in together, Miss Freeling?
We had moved in together September of '03.
When did you leave?
July of '04.
Why did you leave?
He got too controlling, started being violent, so I decided to leave. And I had returned a week later to get some personal belongings and my cat. When I returned to get my cat, he had started pushing me back into the apartment. And at that point, I had my mom call 911, and we had the police come over, and they had to take him aside so I could get my personal belongings out of the apartment and my cat. I couldn't get that much stuff that day.
Why not?
Because I had a small car, and I was afraid to return to the apartment because he got very violent when I did go, and I didn't feel that I should have to call the cops every time I want to come over to my apartment.
Erin Freeling says when she broke up with Philip Reed, he threw all her belongings in a dumpster. She also says he purposely damaged their shared apartment.
Go ahead.
When I'd gone back in September of '04, he had left my clothes on the middle of the floor, wet with urine. But I have videotape of all the damages or the stuff that he thrown in the dumpsters.
Approximately, we lived together for a year and a half. We had a loving, caring relationship. About 8 months in the relationship, Mrs. Freeling told me she had feelings for another female, and she left the premises. I didn't hear from her. I called her and I told her if she don't come get her belongings, I'm going to throw them out. She took my cat that my grandmother got for me last Christmas.
Don't interrupt him. Who took care of it?
I did, because she wasn't there most of the time.
Step up. What's your last name?
Reed, Audrey.
Miss Reed, you bought the cat last Christmas?
Yes, I gave it to him as a present.
Miss Freeling, where'd you get the cat from?
I got the cat for Christmas from Philip, and I took care of the cat. I have vet bills.
Can I see the vet bill, please?
This is even his health checkup. Here's his rabies tag. The cat stuff is mailed to my mom's house because she paid for it.
Who took the cat to the vet, Mr. Reed?
Mom did. Erin's mother did.
No, Erin and her mother.
Along with me.
Erin and her mother.
Correct.
Right, from the very beginning.
Yeah.
Thank you. You may sit down, Miss Reed. Now, what stuff do you claim he disposed of that belongs to you?
When I had returned to the apartment, found everything gone. This is a list of just the main stuff that I found that was gone.
Why didn't you come before? I don't buy the story that you didn't go before because you were afraid of him because he was violent. You could have gone with the police again. You went with them once. You could have gone with them again and gotten your stuff. Why didn't you go back?
Because I didn't have a vehicle that I could move the dresser.
That's baloney.
Because I didn't feel that I should have to get the law involved to get belongings back.
Well, then that's tough. I'm not dealing with something like a sugar dispenser, $3. Salt and pepper shakers, $5. Small cat bowls, $3. The only thing I have to make a decision today about really is the cat and whose cat it is. And Mr. Reed, get over the cat. She took the cat with her. She left a lot of other property behind, but she made sure she took the cat. Where's the cat now?
He's at my house.
All right. And the rest of the stuff that was disposed of, you deal with it. Now, you say that he damaged some property.
We had gotten into an argument. I locked myself in the bathroom. He had damaged the door. When I went back to the apartment, I found tomatoes on the wall.
Do you have a bill from the landlord charging you for cleanup?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see it. Who paid the security deposit?
I paid the security deposit.
That was billed to both of us.
Now I'll see the video.
This is what we found dumpster diving. Here's where he threw most of his stuff. Notice, huh? Pretty good, huh?
There's tomato stains on the carpet.
Spot on the carpet. This is the doorknob that he broke trying to get into the bathroom when I locked myself in the bathroom.
She says she locked herself in the bathroom and you knocked the door. Is that true?
No, I'm not a violent person.
Your Honor,
in any event, that was in January and you lived with him until July, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
And another thing is, she came a week before the lease was even up. Like a week. How come she couldn't confront me and say, hey, I'll pay half of it? Like a couple...
I have no idea. Listen, I'm not Dear Abby.
All right.
I mean, the whole thing is very irritating.
Yeah.
You know, two children playing house, and then things go wrong, and then you annoy the courts by asking them to get involved in who belongs to two placemats and a salt and pepper shaker. If you can't play house like adults, don't play house. Half of $490 is $245, which is left due and owing by each of you to the landlord. The apartment wasn't left in such bad condition. I'm speaking. The apartment wasn't left in such bad condition. The cat belongs to you. Get a judgment for $245. That's all.
You may step out. Your Honor, this is case number 535 on the calendar in the matter of Hawkins versus Barker. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have a seat, please.
Do you see that water jug?
Yep.
You have one of those?
Yeah.
Did you ever?
Yeah.
Did you ever put coins in it?
Yep.
Must be a guy thing. My husband's been collecting that stuff. You collect that stuff. You collect that stuff. Do you collect coins in that? I don't know any women who collect coins in that thing.
Neither do I.
You know? They put bills in a bank. They put bills in a bank. Okay. Mr. Hawkins, this is the theory of your case. Mrs. Barker is your landlord.
Yes, ma'am.
And you had some trouble with a window in your house, in your apartment. You called her, and she said, well, my son will come over and take care of it.
Yes.
In order for him to do that at some point, you had to leave the alarm off, which you did do.
Yes, ma'am.
And when you came home, this jar that had been, a jar similar to this one, that had been filled with coins that you were collecting over the years that had thousands of dollars in it, was gone.
Yes, ma'am.
And you believe that Mrs. Barker and or her son is responsible for your missing property.
Yes, ma'am.
How long have you been living in your current apartment, sir?
10 years.
You live alone?
Yes, at one point, yes. I mean, yes, I do.
Have you always lived alone?
No, ma'am.
Who else did you live with?
My son stayed with me for a couple years.
Until when?
Until sometime early August.
And what happened at that time?
Well, he wasn't following directions, and he had reached 18. And
so you kicked him out?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Since August, has he been back to the house?
No, ma'am.
When did this incident happen with your money jar?
August 26th, ma'am, of 2004.
And what date in August did your son leave?
It was sometime around the beginning, like maybe about the 5th or the 6th, somewhere in there.
When he left on the 5th of August, did you change the locks?
No, ma'am.
You found a broken window. On what date?
August 20th.
Is that the date you notified Miss Barker?
Yes, ma'am.
What date were you told by Mrs. Barker's son that he would fix it?
He came over on August 20th. He said that he was leaving town and he wouldn't be back until Sunday, so he couldn't do anything about it.
Okay. So what did you do?
Well, I said, okay. I was actually leaving town also.
Now, you came back when?
I came back on the 22nd, that Sunday.
Your money jar was still there?
Yes, ma'am.
Where did you keep it?
I kept it in a corner. It's like a corner in my living room.
When did you find it was missing?
On August 26th, when I arrived home from work.
When did Mr. Williams fix your window?
He fixed it on August 26th.
Stand up next to your mother, please. Is that correct, Mr. Williams?
Yes, that is correct.
When you got to his house on August 26th, you had told him to leave the alarm off because you had to get in to fix the window.
That's correct, yes.
And you went in on the 26th. Approximately what time?
I'd say late morning, between, I'd say 10 and 12. My recollection is a little blurry at the moment.
Tell me what happened when you went in to the apartment.
The night before, I had went by the unit, because I live in the same complex 3 doors down, at which time I took duct tape, and I duct taped it from the outside only, because I didn't have clearance to get into the unit. So I pulled the screen off, and I put duct tape on it and secured it until the next morning, because I didn't want to pull it out then and leave it overnight, and that would be very unsafe. So the next morning when I came back, late morning, on the 26th, I observed the tape off the window, and the bottom portion of the glass was laying on the deck in front of the window, with the tape gone and the screen back on the window. And so when I approached the door to open it, I was puzzled initially, and so I opened the door, and I recollect that the deadbolt was not locked, just the bottom lock, and I, entered the unit, and I was in there for 8 to 10 minutes, took the window out, took it to the glass shop. They told me it'd be about, 2 to 3 hours it would take, and come back later. And before I left, I secured the window back up by drawing the blinds, putting the screen back on, and exiting the unit and leaving it the way as if when I entered it, with just the bottom lock locked.
Okay. You don't know anything about his money jar?
Never saw. Like I said, I was in there for 8 minutes. As long as it took me to walk in the door, assess it, pull the window out, put the screen back in, lock the place up, and take it to the shop.
Do you have any criminal record, Mr. Williams?
No, I don't.
That was a tenuous no, I don't.
Well, I do, actually. But I believe that's irrelevant.
I had assumed that you didn't.
Right.
I had assumed that you didn't, but now that you tell me that you did, you have a conviction for anything?
I don't recall what my conviction was. It was years ago, but I don't think that's irrelevant. 6, 7 years ago.
How old are you now?
33.
Since then, nothing?
Nothing.
Okay. Well, that's an honest answer.
Right.
Good. Now, Mr. Hawkins, you're going to have to explain to me what proof you have that Mr. Williams and or his mother, who was the manager of the property, should be responsible for the loss of your money jar.
Like I said, he told me to turn off the alarm. The other thing is...
well, he had to turn off the alarm or give him the code.
Yes.
Because otherwise he couldn't get into your unit.
Exactly.
You could have stayed home from work.
Yes.
And said, I'm not turning off the alarm, I'm going to stay home from work, and I'll let you in.
Well, on Monday and Tuesday, when I was home, because he actually told me on Monday that he was coming to fix the window, and I didn't hear anything from him. So I went to work, and he called me on my cell phone at work on Wednesday.
So you spoke to him?
Yes.
You could have said, I'm not going to be home. Wait until next Monday. I'll take the day off, and you can come and fix the window. You didn't have to turn the alarm off.
No, you're right.
Who was this?
This is my witness, Jim. We had to move the sparkless bottle because he cleans carpets, and just saying that it had to take a big person to actually move that.
I believe that it had to take a big person. So he's your friend?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have other friends in the building?
No, ma'am. He doesn't live in my building.
Do you have any friends in the building after 10 years?
No.
None? You have no friends at all?
Yes, I have friends. Yes, ma'am.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
The most remote thing in my mind would be that I would ask one of my children if they came in and took my property. That wouldn't even enter my mind, sir.
And later today...
Started with my wife's car. Her car caught on fire, which then involved the house.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Brian Hawkins says his landlord, Debbie Barker, owes for a water jug full of money that was stolen from his apartment. Debbie says Brian should talk to his son.
Now let's get to your son. Your son left at around the same time. Did you ask your son about your money jar?
Yes, I did.
Why would you ask your son about your money jar?
Because I don't have any enemies or anything. So I went to his mom's house where he was staying.
When did you go to his mom's house?
I went on Saturday. Well, I called him on Friday, on the day that it happened.
And he said?
He said no, and he wouldn't do anything like that.
But you thought he might?
I just felt that, there was tension between me and my son when he left, but...
And you knew that he knew it was there?
Yes.
And it's possible that it was your son?
It's possible.
It's possible it was Mr. Williams?
Yeah, it's possible.
But Mr. Williams would really have to be pretty stupid to steal your money, knowing that he lives in the complex and knowing that you know that he was going to be in your apartment that day.
Yes, ma'am.
So he'd have to be a fool. He doesn't strike me as being a fool. Mr. Hawkins.
Yes, ma'am.
I was going to suggest to you that you got to keep your money in a bank. And if you have $3,000 worth of coins, keeping them in your apartment is not a very smart thing to do. Now, I assume you reported this matter to the police.
Yes, ma'am.
And when you reported the matter to the police, you indicated that the perpetrator of this crime was unknown to you.
Yes.
It's unknown to me as well. So what you're suggesting is that I hold the defendants responsible because they were in some way negligent.
Yes.
But I don't find that they were negligent, sir. I think that you had certain options, and one of your options was that you could have said, I will be home. We will fix a time when you can come in and fix the window, but I'm not turning the alarm off for several hours because you're not going to be here for a period of time when the alarm is off because you've got to take the window to have it fixed.
But isn't it as a manager or, you take some responsibility because, when you enter someone's apartment, you're liable for, like, any wrongdoing?
He's not liable for someone else's wrongdoing,
Yeah.
sir. He's not, Mr. Hawkins. Mr. Williams nor his mother are responsible if your son stole your money jar.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
Right.
But
and we don't know whether that's true or not, whether it was your son, maybe it was your son and some of his friends, maybe it was some of your son's friends. You don't know that.
Can I say an interesting fact? When he returned home later that evening, he was upset, and he asked me how come I didn't deadbolt the lock. And it was really puzzling to me because I told him the policy usually with a manager is usually when you enter a unit, you leave it the same way when you exit. So when I entered the unit, that deadbolt was not locked. And he said, oh, I always deadbolted. I always deadbolt. And I said, Brian, the deadbolt was not locked. And that's the reason why I didn't deadbolt it when I exited after completion of the job. And he furthermore asked me if I played his Nintendo game. And he said, yeah, the Nintendo game was out, the remotes were out, it was left on. There was a game in it.
Is that right, sir?
No, it was actually pulled out of the, like I have an entertainment stand. And it was actually pulled out with some other items.
So you mean the person who came in that stole your money jar also played your Nintendo?
Well, they were intending to take it.
Either they were intending to take it or they were playing with it. Was there a game in it?
No, there wasn't no game in it.
He told me there was a game in it that wasn't in it prior. And I remember specifically him saying that the remotes were out and the power on the unit was on.
Is that right, sir?
The power was on because they pulled it out. They pulled it out. That and some other things were packed up right in front of the Nintendo.
You mean some other things that somebody was trying to burglarize?
Well, it was my PlayStation, some games, and some DVDs.
Mr. Williams certainly had more than enough time if he wanted to take that property in order to do it, right?
I guess that they forgot it.
No. No. I would look elsewhere, Mr. Hawkins. I don't think these people are responsible for your loss at all.
May I make a comment? When Brian initially made the phone call to me to let me know that the window was broken, I questioned how it got broken.
No, ma'am.
And he informed me he thought it was his son trying to break in.
No, ma'am. No,
that
I
his
didn't.
son had tried several times in the past.
No, ma'am.
And I said, well, gee, Brian, if you or your son broke the window, I'm not responsible to repair it. That's something that you need to repair. And then he changed his whole story that he wasn't sure if it was his son or not.
No, ma'am. That's not true.
Well,
That's
some of
not
your
true.
conduct, Mr. Hawkins, afterwards suggests that she may be telling the truth because certainly if my house was burglarized, I would not call one of my children to find out if they were the perpetrators.
No,
Listen to me very carefully. If my house was missing items and it was clear that my house was the subject of a burglary, the most remote thing in my mind would be that I would ask one of my children if they came in and took my property. That wouldn't even enter my mind, sir, but it entered your mind.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Brian Hawkins says his landlord, Debbie Barker, owes for a water jug full of money that was stolen from his apartment. Debbie says Brian should talk to his son.
Now, you not only called your son, according to you, you went to his mother's house?
Yes, ma'am.
To look for the property? I wouldn't think, would not dawn on me that that's the place that I would look.
That was...
So you thought about it. So what Miss Barker says when she says to me that you thought your son may have tried to get into the house, is supported by what you did after you found your house burglarized.
No, ma'am.
Well, it is, sir.
That's
what I find, sir. They are not responsible. Look elsewhere. Your case is dismissed.
Thank you, Your
Parties
Honor.
are excused. You may step out.
I was taken aback because, you know, prior to this, there was a friendship, kind of, you know, neighborly friendship.
I really don't have Arfa. She's been a nice owner,
And I was taken aback by it.
her son, you know, I hope that they didn't take it personal.
Brian's been there. I've owned the building for 8 years, and he's been a great tenant. And he had some problems with his son. You know, sometimes we all have problems with our children.
I just hope that things can remain the way that they were, because they have been good people to me.
Judge Judy is the best. She's very fair.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Clark versus Beaver. Step forward, please.
Registered nurse Lori Clark is suing the father of her son's bandmate, communications consultant David Beaver, for the cost of musical equipment. Lori says her son's equipment was damaged in a fire at David's home.
Mrs. Clark, your son and the defendant's son are in a band together. Your son had some music equipment that he had brought over to Mr. Beaver's home. Mr. Beaver's home was destroyed by fire. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I don't think it was an intentional fire.
No.
It was an accident. And according to you, your son's music equipment was destroyed. And you want Mr. Beaver to pay for that. Step up, sir. Tell me your name.
Zachary Clark.
Zachary, when did you bring this music equipment to the Beaver home?
Right when we started.
Give me a month.
November, maybe, I don't know.
Okay. Let's say November. And who did you speak to before you brought it over there?
Ben.
Who's that?
His son.
How old are you?
20.
Is Ben the person that you're in the band with?
Yeah.
And tell me about the conversation that you had with Ben. Step up, Ben. Tell me about the conversation.
He answered a thing I put up at a Guitar Center for looking for a drummer, and we just talked, and I brought my stuff over. We're just interested in playing music together.
Where was your music equipment stored?
In Ben's room, which is like the basement, the whole lower level.
When for the first time did you meet Mr. Beaver?
The first day I went over there, I think, yeah.
Did you ever have a conversation with him about your music equipment? Before the fire?
Before it?
Before it?
No.
What makes you think, Miss Clark, that an accidental fire renders Mr. Beaver liable for this music equipment?
I claimed it on my insurance company, and they denied the request to cover the equipment.
So? What makes you think that he's responsible?
Because that's where the equipment was at the time of the fire, was in the basement of his home.
So?
The equipment is damaged. There's smoke damage, extensive smoke damage.
So?
And I was under the impression that he could claim the damage on his insurance company.
Well, maybe he could, but what makes you think that if he didn't, that he would be liable for the damaged equipment? It was not stored there with his permission. He certainly did not assume any liability to act in any more than a reasonable and prudent manner with regard to it, not to do anything to actively damage it or to prevent it from being damaged from some other force, not leaving it under an open window to let it be hit by the elements. Just reasonable precaution. But this is a fire. This is an accident. Why would he be liable for this equipment?
I guess I thought because the equipment was on his property that both of us would claim the equipment to our insurance.
Well, let's say your car is parked in a parking lot, outside parking lot, and from overhead, a plane emanates some stuff, piece of metal, falls down. You don't know where the plane is, you don't know who the owner of the plane is, what company it is, but the thing comes down and destroys your car. Who's responsible? The owner of the parking lot?
Possibly myself, or...
Not the owner of the parking lot, just because the car happens to be sitting in a parking lot. The Beaver is responsible for certain things. If he knew that the equipment was there, if he knew that the equipment was there under these circumstances, then he's responsible to exercise ordinary, prudent care to see that nothing happens to it. How did this fire start, Mr. Beaver?
It started with my wife's car. We have a tuck-under garage. Her car caught on fire, which then involved the house from there. So about a third of the house was damaged by the fire, and the rest was all smoke damage.
Did you question your insurance company with regard to this young man's equipment?
Yes, Your Honor, I did.
And?
The fact that we did not own the equipment, we technically could not claim it on our coverage, and we did not.
So he could not claim it on his insurance, so you want him to pay for the damaged equipment out of his own pocket. I don't think he's liable. It's unfortunate, But I don't think he's liable. Is the equipment usable?
It still is, it works, but they told us not to use it from the Savage Audio. Mr. Beaver brought it in and had it checked out, and it says that smoke damage exceeds the value.
Well, are you working after school?
Do I work? No.
Maybe you better get a job so you can buy some new equipment. Right?
Yep.
Good idea. Case dismissed.
All you are excused. You may step out. Yeah, this is case number 489 on the calendar in the matter of Goodman versus Kyle. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Miss Goodwin, Miss Kyle was the resident manager in the apartment complex where you used to live.
Correct.
And you're suing her for thousands of dollars because you say she ignored a medical condition that you had, placing your life at risk, both yours and your daughter's.
Correct.
And you want your pain and suffering that she caused you, some medical bills. In addition, you want a security deposit of $1,000 that she hadn't returned to you.
Correct.
And Miss Kyle says she owes you absolutely nothing. As a matter of fact, you lived there the last month without paying rent, and that's what your security deposit went for. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Now let's get to the medical condition first, because I find that quite interesting. I gather there is a gate.
Correct.
In your former complex where you lived, and that when you moved in, you were told that in order to get in and out of the gate, you needed a clicker, like a remote. And it was $25.
Yeah, but at the time, I did not own a...
Don't get ahead of me, please. Okay. I'll let you fill in the blanks. Okay. I'm sort of setting this out so that Bert doesn't get bored.
Okay.
So you opted not to get a clicker because you didn't have a car.
No, I had a remote control, but it wasn't one that I purchased from her. At the time, I did not own a car, so there was no reason for me to have a remote control to the gate. But the only reason why I got it...
Listen to me. You didn't buy a remote control from her for $25?
Correct.
When did you move in?
I moved in April.
April of what
2004.
All right. And you lived there with your daughter?
My daughter and my son.
Then in October of 2004, your daughter had a seizure.
Correct.
And paramedics came and fire department and everybody else, and they can get in to the complex, but because you didn't have a clicker, they couldn't get out. At least the ambulance couldn't get out. Mm-hmm. Is that right?
Correct.
So you were angry because your daughter was stuck in the ambulance or whatever, and you went to her the next day, I assume, and said what? And said what?
I was very upset. I approached Miss Linda Kyle and informed her that around 4 o'clock that morning, the paramedics came and picked up my daughter because she had a seizure. And the fire truck came and opened up the gate. After the fire truck left, then the paramedics were there. When the paramedics got ready to leave out of the gate, there was no way for them to, when they went around the apartments, is only one.
Goodwin, we're not creating a novel here. This is a novella, small. The ambulance couldn't get out.
No, they couldn't.
So you went and complained the next day?
Yes, I did.
And what did Miss Kyle say to you?
She did nothing.
Your daughter suffers from seizures?
That was the first seizure that I've ever had my daughter have.
Well, after you had that first experience, you know what I would have done?
No.
I would have bought a clicker.
Okay.
You chose not to do that. And then a month later, you had an asthma attack.
Correct.
And you still didn't have a clicker.
Exactly, but that has nothing to do with the paramedics. The paramedics should be able to get out of that gate at all times. The only one that has a code is the fire truck. Once the fire truck leaves, there's nothing that the paramedics can do. The night that I had that asthma attack, there was no way for them. They saved my life. I was hospitalized for 3 days because of that. And the first time, she did nothing.
What I don't understand is why you didn't buy a clicker.
Why I didn't? Because I didn't have a car. There was no need for me. After someone stole it inside the apartment.
Listen to me. There was a need because a month before, your daughter had a serious incident, according to you. And had you had a clicker at that point, you would have gone out in the ambulance with your daughter, gone like this, and the gate would have gone up.
Well, at the time, when a 2-year-old is sitting there having a seizure, that remote control does not mean anything to me. That is my 2-year-old daughter. That's the only daughter that I have. That remote control.
I want to tell you something. You're not making sense to me. You're not making sense to me.
The remote control, okay, the remote control is a big thing to me, okay? It is. But when it comes to the fire truck and the paramedics, that has nothing to do with me having a remote control to the gate. That has nothing to do with it at all, period. I could have lost my life in that paramedics. That's why I'm so upset.
Listen to me, madam. What I don't understand is your daughter had a seizure in October. The paramedics had a problem getting out of your gate. Now you know that your daughter is subject to seizures. I would have said to myself, I have a 2-year-old child. I'm not going to be put in a situation where this can ever happen to me again. Here's $25, give me a clicker. I'm going to keep it in my house in case I ever have that kind of problem again. That's the way you protect your child. Why would you blame that on somebody else?
Well, it's a lot when it comes to Miss Linda.
Now, we're not talking about Miss Linda. I'm talking about you being a responsible parent.
Yes,
you now have
I'm
a
very
child that you
responsible when it
know
comes
is
to my
subject to seizures, who may in the future have that kind of an emergency. And just as you would go and get the medicine for your child that the doctor gave you, you would want to ensure that if an ambulance had to be called again, you would be able to get the ambulance in and out. I mean, if you disapprove of the way this apartment complex is run, you have a choice. You can move.
Correct.
That's your choice. But to stay there after your 2-year-old has had a seizure without the ability to get her out in case of an emergency is very, very irresponsible.
Well, I thought she was going to fix the problem after I approached her with it.
What made you think that?
Because she's the manager of the apartments. And
now,
you
what
would
did
think
she say to you that led you to believe that she was going to fix it?
She told me they had a code to the gate. They don't have a code to that gate because we sat out there for 30 minutes. When I had my asthma attack, they went knocking on people's door at 4 o'clock in the morning to get me out.
Just a second. Let me ask you a question. They were knocking on people's doors, the paramedics?
Correct.
What did they want when they were knocking on people's doors?
They wanted to get out of the gate.
They wanted a
remote control to get out of the gate.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Are you living someplace now that you like?
Yes, me and my kids are very happy.
Does it have a gate?
Yes, it does. And as a matter of fact, the people can get in and out of the gate.
Perfect. Then you're in a place where you're happy.
And later today,
the numbers came up. I won. I was amazed.
I seen it on the ground, and I picked it up, and I did cash it.
Once you found out that it was his lottery ticket, you shouldn't have kept the money.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Monique Goodwin says she nearly died from an asthma attack because paramedics couldn't open the security gate to her apartment. Manager Linda Kyle says Monique never purchased a remote control.
Now, after your incident in November, at some point you were served with an eviction notice. Do you want to tell me why you served her with an eviction notice?
The eviction notice that Ms. Goodwin was served with had nothing to do with the gate. It was due to a nuisance matter where her and her sister was fighting all outside.
You have a complaint?
Yes, I do.
May I see it, please? Who witnessed this?
Actually, it was 3 or 4 apartments in the complex that called and reported that there was a big scene.
Did you have surround sound in your apartment?
No, I do not own surround sound.
Your Honor, she told me she owned surround sound.
When did she tell you that?
When I asked her to turn her music down.
What did she say?
She said that she didn't feel that she should have to get rid of her surround sound, that she had a right as long as she paid her rent and her apartment to play her music whenever she felt like it.
Which is a lie.
Okay, so you were served with this 3-day notice to quit on December the 1st.
No, I wasn't.
When were you served?
I was given this notice to quit on December the 3rd. I tried to give her my rent on the 1st of December. She looked at me with a big smile on her face while me and my mom was in her office and told me that she was not going to accept my rent.
Okay. So she said, I'm not going to accept your rent on December 1st. You were given a notice to vacate the apartment. When did you, in fact, leave the apartment?
We went to court on January the 5th. I didn't leave until January the 22nd.
What was your rent?
My rent was $625.
Did you pay rent for December?
I tried. I have.
Don't tell me you tried.
No, I...
Did you pay rent for December? Did you live there in December?
Yes, I did.
Did you pay rent in January?
No, I did not, because she
Did you live there in January?
Yes, I did. I tried to give her my rent. She did not want it.
No, she wanted you out. The only issue is whether, when you moved out, you owed any money. You lived there for 2 months. You didn't pay rent for 2 months. I'm not here to determine whether or not the underlying case of the eviction was right or wrong. That's been resolved by the housing court. I'm here because you want your security deposit back, and what I'm saying to you is you expected to live there for December and January and not have, I'm speaking, and not pay rent?
I'm gonna get mad.
Are you living someplace now that you like?
Yes, me and my kids are very happy.
Good, that's what I think should happen. I think that you and your children should find a place to live where you're very happy. Does it have a gate?
Yes, it does. And as a matter of fact, the people can get in and out of the gate.
Perfect. Then you're in a place where you're happy.
But the problem...
Listen to me. You're in a place where you're happy. All right. Now, you were given an opportunity to get a remote control for the gate. You chose not to get one. Even after your daughter had a seizure, you chose not to get one.
What does that have to do with the paramedics? I don't understand that.
Miss Goodwin, listen, there are no free rides.
Yeah, but this is the receipt that I tried to give her my rent money. But she would not take it from me.
You just paid it with your security deposit, that's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Me and my daughter could have lost our lives while we were in that paramedics.
Well, I think Judge Judy got a chance to see through Miss Monique.
This lady is a very good liar, and she lies all the time.
She's young. This is her first apartment.
She's just and I hate her, and I'm going to keep hating her.
She's a little hard-headed. You can't make her understand.
She's just like, ugh.
Pray for patience.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Hackett versus Duval. Step forward, please.
Tree surgeon James Hackett is suing medical assistant Patricia Duval for cashing his winning lottery ticket after he lost it.
Mr. Hackett, it is your claim that the defendant cashed your winning lottery ticket.
Yes, ma'am.
Defendant says she found it. It's hers.
That's correct.
When did you purchase this lottery ticket, sir?
I purchased it on a Saturday. It was October the 2nd of last year. And on that day, I went down to the lottery agency and found they weren't open. So I put it in my wallet and decided...
Just a second. When was the drawing?
It was drawn that day.
The same day?
Yes.
Where did you watch the numbers?
It was on a TV screen in the store. The numbers came up. It was the first game. I won. I was amazed.
Had you played those numbers before, or was it a random?
Three of the numbers are birthdays. My mother's, and one of my other deceased brother's birthday. The other three are random numbers that come up a lot. So I played them together and happened to win.
Okay. Where did you purchase the ticket?
Chelmsford, Massachusetts.
Where?
It was a convenience store in Massachusetts.
When you found out that you won on these numbers, what did you do with your winning ticket?
I brought it up to the counter, and the store manager, what he does is a general practice. In that store, they photocopy it and hang it up on a little display thing to tout the winning numbers.
So he photocopied your lottery ticket?
He did, fortunately.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. James Hackett is suing Patricia Duval for cashing his winning lottery ticket. Patricia says she found the ticket, so it should be hers.
What happened to the ticket, Mr. Hackett?
Well, the following Monday, I went back to work. I'm a professional tree climber.
A tree climber, what is that?
I climb trees and reduce them, take them down. I do difficult takedowns.
Okay.
And I did all the hard work in the morning, and there was one easy one. And 21 years of climbing, this one little stupid tree I'm climbing, a branch broke. I fell out of the tree 12 feet. I hit the ground. I break 8 ribs, my wrist. I puncture a lung. And the ambulance comes to get me, and I can hear a chopper coming. I can't breathe, and I have the guys flip me over on my back and take my gear off, my saddle, my hooks, my chainsaw, all the stuff, my helmet, was all my safety gear.
Is that when you claim that you lost your lottery ticket?
They cut my pants off, my wallet.
Is that what you claim?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Where exactly was this? Where did this happen?
In Berlin, Massachusetts.
Is that where you live, in Berlin?
No, ma'am.
Where do you live?
Douglas, Mass.
Were you in Berlin?
Not Berlin, no.
Where did you find the lottery ticket?
Northborough, Mass, at a Dunkin' Donuts parking lot.
How far is that from Berlin?
I couldn't tell you.
No.
It's a town or two away, ma'am.
So it's one town away?
Yeah, I believe so.
Good. Now we come to you.
Okay.
You found the lottery ticket in a Dunkin' Donuts parking lot,
Yes,
one
I did.
town away from where he lost his lottery ticket, right?
Yes.
And what did you do with it?
Well, my husband and I came out of the Dunkin' Donuts and we were going to our car, and I seen it on the ground, and I picked it up and looked at it. It also had like a confirmation with the ticket saying that apparently it was a winner. So it was late, it was about 6:37 at night.
What date?
October 7th.
Okay.
And so I picked it up, and the next day I went to the lottery agent, and sure enough, it was a winner, and it wasn't signed, so I signed it, and I did cash it.
Cash it. Okay. And how much money did you get?
$1,600.
Ma'am, I have a problem with that.
Now, Mr. Hackett, after you realized that your lottery ticket was missing, you contact the lottery office?
Yes, I boogied down there from, as soon as I got out of the hospital.
And at that point, you went down there with the numbers that you had.
Yes.
Did you go back to the store that had posted the winning lottery?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Let me see it, please.
Ma'am, she's saying she's found...
Oh, it's a Keno.
It's a Keno.
Keno.
Game. Yeah, I'm not in the habit of playing it, but if I have a fistful of dollars, I'll play it once in a while.
Okay. So you went down to them, got this.
Yes, ma'am.
Got this.
Unfortunately, they had photocopied that.
Right.
3 of those numbers are birthdays that mean something to me.
Don't say
Sorry,
anything.
ma'am.
You never can tell. So far, you're doing okay.
But, ma'am, I don't know this gentleman at all.
don't
Never
know you
seen
either.
him before.
Mr. Hackett, did I
apologize.
give you an opportunity to speak? Was she quiet when you were speaking?
Yes, ma'am.
Don't interrupt her.
I've never seen him before in my life.
You don't have to see him.
And there was no signature on it. And like any normal person, if you find something that's worth something and there's no signature, no ownership, then you're going to keep it, you know?
I am satisfied that Mr. Hackett lost his lottery ticket.
Well, yes.
And based upon this, I am satisfied that the winning lottery ticket that you found belonged to Mr. Hackett.
Ma'am, I hit it.
I'm speaking!
Sorry. I'm sorry.
Let's say, Miss Duval, that you're walking along the street and you find a 4-carat emerald-cut diamond. Doesn't have a name, doesn't have an address, doesn't have anything. And you take it home. And you say, gee, this looks great. I'm going to size it and wear it on my finger. And you do. Then you're having your nails done a week later. And the woman at the next counter is sitting there and she says, it's a nice ring. And you say, yeah, I found it. She said, well, I lost my ring last week. Do you mind if we take it in to the jeweler? Because I have my GIA that you get when you buy a diamond, and it maps all the little dots in a diamond so it can identify, you know, one diamond from another. You go with her to the gemologist, and he said, that diamond belongs to that report.
Yes, and I would agree. Yes, I would agree.
That's her diamond.
Yes. And
Even
be
though
no
you
problem,
found it.
take
Just a
it back,
second.
yes.
Even though you found it.
Yep.
He lost his lottery ticket. His problem is not with you finding it and cashing it. His problem is once you found out that it was his lottery ticket, you shouldn't have kept the money.
I just found out when I got notified.
Oh, there we go. So we have no problem. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,600. Thank you.
Your Honor. Parties are excused. You may step out. Case number 234 on the calendar in the matter of Gransbury Conte versus Marine. You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated. Folks, have seats, please.
Pronounce your last name for me.
Gransbury Conte.
Miss Conte, you have a son.
That is correct.
Whose name is Zane. He is currently incarcerated.
He's in a rehab.
Did he go into rehab after his term in prison?
Yes.
This lady has a daughter. Her daughter has a child with your son.
Yes.
Her daughter is currently in rehab.
No, she's home, ma'am.
How long was she in rehab?
35 days.
Probably not enough.
Probably not.
But this is not about the child. This is not about anything. This is about a dog. Because it is your claim that Miss Marine
Yes.
had your son's dog, a year-old pit bull, and she took possession of the dog when your son went to prison. There was an agreement that she would do that, but after 9 or 10 months, she gave the dog away. Miss Marine says nobody wanted this dog. The dog was an untrained animal when she got him. And she's counterclaiming because she said, if you've got your son's power of attorney, you ought to pay her for the year's worth of food and vet bills. And in addition to the fact that she fed this dog and took care of him for a year, he also was dangerous and caused injury to her pet duck. And there was substantial vet bills. So that's what the case is about. Don't you have better things to think about than this?
Yes.
You've got a son who's got a drug problem. You've got a daughter who's got a drug problem. You share a grandchild.
Yes.
And how old is this grandchild?
She's 22 months, ma'am. Yeah.
I'm going to get to your case in a second, but it would seem to me that you two ladies, if you were intelligent young ladies, would concentrate on this 22-month-old child who had the misfortune of having two drug addicts as parents.
Absolutely.
Ah! We reach an accord. Perfect. All right, so let's take care of the dog first, and then we're going to talk about the baby.
Okay.
When your son went to jail, why didn't you take the dog?
I went to Spokane to pick the dog up. At that time, I was with Carrie. I stayed at Carrie's house, and we had an agreement because I was going to take the dog to take it back, and she had asked me if I would leave the dog with her because she felt that it made it like my son was still there.
You mean her daughter?
Yeah, her daughter.
Go ahead. So her daughter said, leave me the dog because I will feel close to my man.
Yeah, exactly. And I had offered, you know, I said, if anything comes up with the dog, if you can't handle it, anything that you need to give me a call, you know, I had no problem, you know, making payments for dog food or whatever. Yeah, we did talk about that.
That's with her daughter?
Yeah, with her daughter. Melody wasn't even in the picture.
Okay. But there came a time when Melanie came into the picture.
Carrie had gotten sick. She had some other medical problems.
Her daughter?
Yes. Melody, from what I understand, stepped in to help Carrie with the dog.
And when was that?
I'm not sure exactly when, because Carrie and I were not talking after November because of Melody.
Why?
When I went down there for my son's trial, I had stayed with Carrie, and Melody has nothing but horrible things to say about my son to my face on a regular basis, even when she put on my wedding. Okay. That's all I heard about.
Oh, okay. So the mother was angry at your son?
Exactly. And she had interceded a letter from my son to Carrie, and she said that if Carrie's plan was to be a jailhouse bride, she wasn't going to have no part of it. She was going to give her an ultimatum that she wasn't going to take care of her child and the dog and everything if this is what her daughter's choice was going to be. I went and I, you know, told Carrie what she had said. Carrie confronted her mom, and Melody twisted it and said that wasn't what she said, and then, you know, Carrie wasn't talking to me.
If you had a daughter, would you want her to marry somebody who was in jail?
No.
Of course not.
No.
Because you would think that that was a bad choice.
Exactly.
So how many months did the dog stay with Miss Marine before you asked for the dog back?
April is when I found out she gave the dog away. So
Now,
it was like 7 months.
Now, what I'm asking you, so you knew that Miss Marine had the dog for 7 months.
Not her, Carrie.
How many months did you know that she had the dog, not
None.
Carrie? None.
None.
At all?
None.
Okay. And she actually had the dog for how many months?
Between 8 and 9 months.
After your daughter couldn't take care of the dog anymore?
My daughter never took care of the dog.
So that means that for 8 or 9 months you weren't checking on this dog regularly?
Oh, yes, I did.
Well, who did you check with the dog?
There's a mutual party that was taking care of my wiener dog.
You mean a dachshund?
Yeah.
Why wasn't the dachshund with you?
My husband and I had just gotten married, and we lived in an apartment.
So you couldn't take care of these dogs anyway?
We were in the process of purchasing a house.
So there was a period of time when you could not take care of not only this dog, but you couldn't take care of your little dog because you were in an apartment. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So get over it. This wasn't a dog that you were attached to. This wasn't a dog that you were responsible for at any time physically. You're just suing her about this dog because you're angry at her.
No, she has no right to take my son's dog. This is about my son.
Stop worrying about your son. Let your son worry about getting his life together.
Well, he is doing that.
Well, that's good. He's in rehab, and he should worry about taking care of himself, not a 90-pound untrained pit bull.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She's cleaning up after not only her daughter, but her daughter and your son. And instead of
She has a restraining order against us.
Well, there must be a reason for that.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Kim Gransberry Conte says the mother of her son's girlfriend, Melody Marine, owes for the return of a pit bull named Samson. Melody claims Kim is angry because she is seeking custody of their granddaughter.
Madam, devote your energies to rehabilitating your son and perhaps engaging your granddaughter in some sort of a relationship before you ruin the relationship that you have totally with this lady, who it appears to me, at least based upon what I read, has filed a petition for custody of the child. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. Temporary.
Well, somebody's got to take temporary custody of her.
I have a letter here that clearly shows what Melanie's intent is towards my son and towards me, you know.
So, now let's get to the expenses of the dog that you're talking about on your counterclaim, then I'm going to read the letter. You have a counterclaim because you want the cost of the food, etc., for the dog, is that right?
That would be nice.
Well, it would be nice, but she's not responsible for that. You chose to keep the dog. As far as I'm concerned, you could have given the dog away the day it came into your possession. What happened with your duck?
In the morning when I go out to open up the chicken coop and feed them and let them out for the day, Samson's just charged in before I did and kind of head-butted the duck and smacked his head on the back of the chicken coop, and his eye just gradually swelled and festered and eventually had to be removed.
So that you have to understand that Samson was your responsibility, and if you were in any way negligent in taking care of him that allowed him access to the duck, that's not her fault. Now, well, this certainly is a very angry letter. It's a letter, Miss Marine, that you wrote to Zane, I assume while he was incarcerated.
Yes.
And let me tell you how I evaluate this letter. Your son and her daughter, who she refers to in this letter as a bunch of miserable dopeheads, she refers to her own daughter that way, created a child that she now has to take care of. You have other children?
My children are grown. I have another grandchild.
How old is your other grandchild?
He'll be 6 next month.
Who does he live with?
His mother.
That's what's supposed to happen. You have children who are in their 20s and 30s, and they choose to have families, and they come and visit every Sunday or every other Sunday, and they spend 2-3 hours. They mess up your house, and then they go home. They don't come to live with you when they're 2 years old. You're having a wonderful time. You got a new husband, you got a new house, you're moving, everything is nice, and she's getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and she's taking care of kids who have the stomach flu and virus and daycare and all this other stuff, because 2 young people who didn't know enough to use adequate protection had a baby and happened to be 2 drug addicts and said, oh, I'm not, somebody else is going to take care of my problem. So your son, instead of writing from prison and saying to her, thank you for taking care of my child. If there's anything I can do, keep tabs on what it is that you're spending. I can never repay you, but at least I can help when I get out, is very interested in his dog. Who's got my dog, and who's going to take care of my dog, and you've got my dog, and I want my dog back. And she says in the letter, before you ask about your dog, why don't you ask about your daughter, Lark?
Oh, he did.
No.
That's her.
No.
That's her letter.
Much later on in the letter, clearly.
Yeah,
before you
the
get
letter?
angry. Before you get angry. So your son's clearly got his priorities all screwed up.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Kim Gransberry Conte says the mother of her son's girlfriend, Melody Marine, owes for the return of a pit bull named Samson. Melody claims Kim is angry because she is seeking custody of their granddaughter.
You have to understand that she's cleaning up after not only her daughter, but her daughter and your son. And instead of suing her...
She has a restraining order against us.
Well, there must be a reason for that.
I haven't done anything to her.
I have no restraining order.
She said she has
it hasn't been served. It never got served.
She said she has no restraining order. What I'm telling you is, I think that you should start to mend fences before you build barriers. This lawsuit is a barrier. You have no case anyway, and I think the long-term picture that you should look at is that it's quite probable that this little grandchild is going to require 2 sets of grandparents to help raise her, unless her parents get their acts together. And so far, I see a mother who checked into rehab for 35 days, which isn't enough time. I hope that your son does better in his program, because certainly he probably has a jail term hanging over his head if he doesn't.
Yes.
In any event, you two ladies, if you're smart, are going to get together for the sake of this 22-month-old baby who probably will need you. Your case is dismissed, as is your counterclaim.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I, had hoped that my son would at least get his dog back.
I think that Kim filed the suit because I am seeking temporary custody of my granddaughter.
Oh, no, it's not. Melody thinks she is Saint Melody and thinks that she can just take everybody's stuff and do whatever she wants.
I hope that Kim can follow through with her promise and teach Lark how to crochet and sew, because I know how to cook and garden.
I just wanted to let her know that she's not going to walk all over me, and yes, I am going to watch out for my granddaughter.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Butler versus Owens. Step forward, please.
24-year-old law student Camilla Butler is suing her former roommate, personal banker Nicole Owens, for breaking a lease and unpaid bills. Nicole says she gave Camilla ample notice.
Miss Butler, you and Miss Owens were roommates. You claim she moved out prematurely, owing you 2 months' rent. The 2 months were for the months that she was not going to be there, but you claim an agreement that she would pay rent until the end of May. You also claim she owes some bills. She said she gave you 3 weeks' notice, and she left her $250 security deposit with you. That more than covers any outstanding bills. That's your defense. When did you move in together?
Your Honor, we moved in together on January 22nd. That's when we agreed to move in together over the phone.
Okay. Now, you moved into an apartment that you had or she had, or that was a brand new apartment?
It was a brand new apartment for both of us.
Good. Can I see the lease, please?
Absolutely.
Who found the apartment, Miss Butler?
The defendant and I agreed to move into the apartment one day. Gage and I went up to Long Beach to...
So you looked at it together for the first time?
We found it separate. I'm sorry. I found it alone.
And you signed the lease alone?
She did not sign the lease. However,
that means that she is not a signatory to the lease. If she did not sign the lease, madam, then she is not responsible under this lease. You understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
So this is not the lease upon the contract that you are suing on. You're suing on a contract that you had with her, according to you, to live in the apartment until the end of May.
That's correct, Your Honor. It was an
Good.
oral agreement.
And may I see that agreement?
It was not in writing. It was oral, Your Honor.
Well, tell me about the oral agreement that you think is binding.
Okay. We agreed orally over the telephone to move in together. We agreed on an apartment together orally, and we agreed orally that she would sign the lease that evening.
But she never did.
That's true. She never did sign the lease.
Okay, Ms. Owens, let me hear what happened on the 22nd of January.
I never said I would move in and stay there until May. I never made an oral agreement that I would sign the lease that night. None of that ever happened.
Well, when she called you, did she tell you how long a lease she had to sign?
It was month to month.
This is a month-to-month lease.
Yes, Your Honor, it is. However, we agreed together, separately, outside of the lease agreement, that we would be living together until May 31st.
She didn't want to live with you after March.
Yes, she did tell me March 10th that she was entertaining the idea of moving out. At that day, we talked about it. I said, that's fine if you want to move out. That's fine with me. However, if you choose to move out, you need to make sure that you find somebody to move in your place. She agreed.
That's not true.
Well,
no, that's not true. Just because you say it doesn't make it true, Ms. Butler. She paid for March's rent, right? Mm-hmm. You're not responsible for the lease in April or May. You could have given your landlord notice and moved. You chose to stay there.
However, we did agree that we would live together until the end of May.
Listen, people get married and they agree to live together till death do us part. 50% of those people go their own way. Just because you agree doesn't mean that she has to stay there. Now, what about her security deposit?
We haven't gotten the security deposit back since I guess the landlord is still in the process of cleaning the apartment and, I guess, seeing what needs to be done.
But you had $250 in security deposit?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Now, what bills do you say she left when she left?
There was a gas bill for February, electric bill for February, garage rental for March, gas bill for March, and also there were 10 days of rent between January 22nd and January 31st, where apparently we didn't pay for it in February, so we had to pay it later, and Nicole never paid that part.
So let me have those figures, please.
Okay. Your Honor, would it be okay for Gage to testify about the conversations he had with Nicole?
Sure. Last name?
Duran.
I'm ready to hear you.
Essentially what happened is Nicole said, I'm just going to leave, and that's the end of the story, and that she gave Camilla her 30 days notice, but the landlord required that 30 days notice.
Well, let me tell you, I've looked over your damages. Your damages, you say, were $1,129.83. If you deduct April's garage rental, because she wasn't there in April, and if you deduct the $850 in rent, comes out to exactly $249, and she's got $250 in security deposit. So really the only issue is it reasonable for Miss Owens to pay you 1 month's rent to have given you a full 30 days notice of her intention to leave? Do you think it was reasonable for you to give her 1 month's notice, 30 days notice?
I didn't even know until 3 weeks prior that I would be moving out.
That's not her fault.
I know.
That's your fault.
That. Yeah, I
That's your
understand
fault. And 30 days notice is not unreasonable, because
No,
if she were
it's
to
not.
give the landlord 30 days notice pursuant to the lease, then she could have, I don't care if she went home to live with her mother. I don't care if she went home to live with this guy. I don't care if she goes into a shelter. That's not the issue. The issue is you had to do the right thing and give her 30 days notice, which you didn't do.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, I understand that.
So, minimally, you owe her $425, which is your half of the rent for 1 month.
Mhm.
And the rest of the bills is more than covered by her security. You left the place pretty clean?
Oh, yes.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $425. That's all.
Parties are excused. Step out, please. That's case number 499 on the calendar, the matter of Todoran versus Bracken. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Ms. Todoran, who was your witness?
My old roommate, Julie Perry.
Does she have information with regard to this case?
We lived together when Chad and I first started dating and when I moved out to New York with him.
That doesn't answer my question. Does she have evidence with regard to this case, or is she just here for moral support?
She's
is not an answer. Come on. You're going to law school?
Yes.
All right. That's what I gather from your complaint. If you're going to law school, you give me an answer. Does she have evidence? Does she have testimony to offer? Or is she here as just for good company?
She just has testimony.
Just has testimony. What year of law school are you in?
First.
Okay. And he?
I'm learning.
It's Ryan Barr. That's one of my best friends from New York. He'll offer testimony. He helped move the furniture.
Okay, good. You two people used to be in love with each other. You lived together for a little while. You don't anymore, and you claim he owes you some money for a loan, and he's got some property that belonged to you, a sofa or something that he agreed to pay for, and he didn't when you broke up. Mr. Bracken says that you were involved in a give-and-take relationship. That's what people do when they live together. Sometimes you paid, sometimes he paid. He owes you nothing.
Correct.
When did you move in together and where?
We first moved into an apartment. It was in June of 2003.
Listen to me. Is that the apartment we're talking about in this case?
There are 2 apartments. We moved into
I'm
one.
not interested in the first apartment in 2003.
They're both 2003.
Get to the one where you were living in, where you say you had to advance money for the security and first, last, and security. When was that?
That was July 2003.
How much was the rent on the apartment?
$1,700 a month.
What were you doing at the time?
I got a job as a freelance designer.
And he?
He was a production assistant.
And you agreed to split the rent?
Yes.
Is that right, sir?
Yes.
Good. Did you give her money for rent?
Yes, I did.
How much?
Half the rent. And what would happen a lot of times is...
I'm talking about when you first moved in.
Sorry.
When you first moved in, you have to give first, last, security. It's a whole big chunk of money.
Right.
Did you have that money to give her?
It did not happen in July the way you're stating it.
That's all I wanted to know.
Okay.
So you did not give her that money. How much did you give the landlord in July?
$5,000.
You have proof of that?
I have a receipt for my deposit and for $1,700, and I have the receipt for the broker's fee that I paid of $1,700.
Well, let me see what you have the receipt from. You should have the receipt from everything. You should have your check, cancel checks.
Your Honor, I didn't keep a lot of the documentation because he was my boyfriend and I trusted him and I loved him and I did not think that I would ever need these kind of things. We had an oral agreement.
Listen to me, my dear.
I trusted him. I know it was stupid.
Listen to me, my dear. You're going to law school. When two people love each other and are committed to each other, they get married. Then we have courts for them. What happened with you is you decide to come into court and to sue him and say, listen, I didn't keep my receipts. I don't have proof, but we had an agreement. And our agreement when we moved in together was we were going to split the bills down in half, right? And we didn't. I paid more. And he says, well, there came a time when you moved into this apartment that you lost your job.
Mm-hmm.
And I picked up the slack.
No, he didn't.
Well, that's what he's saying.
He's lying.
Just a second. How am I supposed to figure that out?
I moved out in December, and I paid rent through the end of January to give him time to find a new place, because actually we were getting evicted.
Show me.
I can't. I called the landlord, and they refused to send me receipts since I was involved in a lawsuit. I'm telling the truth. I'm under oath. I would not make this up.
Did you break the lease?
We did. They just let us out. They just let us out of it.
What happened in 2004?
He made payments to me all year.
How much?
He paid me payments of $62, $100, $60, $50, $150. The last payment was this past December, 2004. I have the cashier's check right here for $150.
How much did he pay you in total?
$422.
What did you give her $422 for?
I felt that I owed her after, because every time I would try to negotiate with Ms. Toteron and say, because she always stuck with that number. And
What number?
$5,800. And I said, there's a lot of things that we need to talk about, why certain expenses shouldn't be considered in that debt and other things like that. Now, so what I came to determine was $1,400. And so I was acting in good faith by paying towards that.
Okay, so let us say that after 2.5 years, you decided that $1,400 was your fair share.
Yes, ma'am.
Because you paid for some things, she paid for some things. Neither of you have records.
I have records. I can show
So
everything.
why didn't you finish paying the $1,400?
No, I did. That's what the
she
payment.
got $400 from you, $422.
Okay, I can show.
Show me canceled checks for more.
Certainly.
And then we're out of here.
Well, I can only show you $300 in addition to what she is saying.
Show me.
Is that, as well as I have copies of the, I would write bills down that I owed on legal
Just a second.
pads.
I see one thing for, what?
It's very hard to tell this
I see
stuff.
one thing for $150.
And the other thing does say 150. It's hard to tell.
Well, I
it's
can't read it. If
undernumbered.
I can't read it, my dear, then it doesn't exist.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She said she would stay until February. In actuality, 3 days later, she was packing when I got back from work.
It must have been your personality.
And later today,
I want him to leave me alone because I have a restraining order against him.
Your son has to get over the fact that she doesn't want to have anything to do with him anymore.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Emily Toteran says ex-boyfriend Chad Bracken owes for loans and a couch. Emily says moving to New York with Chad was a big mistake.
She has $422.
Mm-hmm.
Does that include a check on November 29th, 2004 for $150?
I have a copy of that right here.
Okay. You got credit for it.
Okay.
$422. So what happened to the rest?
All
What
right.
happened to the other $1,000, Mr. Bracken?
Okay. Now the rest, well, there are payments. As Ms. Toteran said, we didn't keep a lot of these things, so I've shown you everything that I do have.
All right, so let's
But I
start from
do
the...
have, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I do have all the expenses from moving her furniture, which was 6 months after she left, actually almost 7 months after she left, that I kept with me. I moved twice. Mr. Barr helped me move these things into Brooklyn. Now, when we moved from New York, I moved everything and paid all the expenses to return her furniture to her.
How much was that?
$1,227.
Did you receive furniture from him?
No, I did not.
Just a minute, what did you return to her, sir?
I returned all her stereo equipment, a television.
Nope.
Show me the address where you sent it.
I didn't send it. She came and picked it up from my house when I got back to Indianapolis.
Lies.
You said expenses to send it back to her.
No, to move it back.
Give it back to him. You owe her $1,000. That's based on your statement, sir, because I'm not going through your bills from 2.5 years ago. $50 here and $12 there. Let's take what you have.
Okay.
The debt that you acknowledge was $1,400, and you paid her $422. That leaves about $1,000. Now, what about this couch that she says that she sold to you and you never paid her for?
Okay, can I just back up 1 second?
Yeah.
So the moving expenses.
I'm getting so bored with this.
All right, all right. All right,
Why
the
is it boring?
furniture, basically the furniture, when she decided to move, she said she would stay until February. In actuality, 3 days later, she was packing when I got back from work in a minivan. Now,
It must have been your personality.
I can't speak to what was in her head. I
The
can't
couch,
speak to what her...
the couch.
Okay, so she left 3 days later in a minivan. She said, I can't, move this furniture. I said, well, if you're going to charge me half of it, take the furniture with you. She said, no, I can't move it. You keep it.
Okay, and your
Can I
version of the
speak?
couch?
My version of the couch is we went to the store together with the intention of purchasing a couch and paying for half of it, which I have the receipt for
No,
right
you
here.
weren't intending to purchase a couch for half. You were intending to purchase a couch for full price.
Yes, so I
And you were
purchased.
each going to pay half.
I purchased the couch for full price, and before I purchased it, I said, "You're going to pay me back for half of this, correct?"
Just don't
And
look
what
at it. Don't look at it.
Okay, and he said yes. So then, when I was moving, he was going to stay in New York for an indefinite period of time. So I said, "You know what? You keep the couch. You still owe me half for it, but you just go ahead and keep it."
Listen, when two young people want to play house, they shouldn't irritate me. You have the couch?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you return her stereo equipment?
Absolutely.
No.
Did you return her television set?
I returned everything.
Go ahead.
Sometime in April or something, the new apartment he lived in New York burnt down.
Did he return any property to you?
He returned my TV, but my stereo apparently was damaged in the fire.
Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $1,000. That's all. Step out. Don't play house anymore.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
The defendant is probably the biggest liar I've ever met in my entire life.
When we got to the end of the relationship and she hadn't been employed for 2 months, she realized she'd be safer back at home. I think she left.
I thought Chad was sketchy all along, so I was actually warning her at the time when she wanted to move to New York with him to not do it.
She made a bad decision being in New York, and she paid for it, and she wanted me to be the easy target.
I just don't understand how a person like that can live their life and get out of bed and think they're a good person every day. And his hair is kind of disturbing, too.
I hope this ends it.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Webb versus Batum, step forward.
21-year-old Philip Webb is suing his ex-fiancée, 19-year-old cashier Crystal Batum, for rent and the return of a wedding ring set. Crystal says Philip is stalking her.
Are you scared to death or just unhappy?
No, I'm fine.
Okay. Cheer up. It's only money. Mr. Webb, Ms. Batum used to be your girlfriend. You lived together for a period of time at some point in your mother's house. Is this your mother?
Yes.
You broke up and you claimed that Ms. Batum came to the house and she took a ring set that you purchased.
Yes.
You want the ring set back. And in addition, you say that Ms. Batum also owes you for a month's rent.
Yeah, for her half of the rent.
Her half of the rent when you were living at your mother's house.
Yes.
Ms. Batum says she paid for the ring set and that there was never any arrangement to pay rent to your mother. Neither of you ever paid rent to your mother. Is that right?
Yeah.
When did you start to live with Ms. Batum in your mother's house?
In August, my mother...
August of what year?
2004. My mother had spoke with us in August and told us, now that, both of us are working with a steady income, she wanted us to pay $300 a month rent.
Mm-hmm.
And then September 23rd is when she left. And I had...
Oh, did she agree to pay your mother $300 a month rent?
Yes, we both did.
When in August did your mother have this conversation with you?
Around the middle of the month.
And when did she expect you to start to pay rent?
She expected us to start to pay rent the following month.
In September?
Yes.
And she moved out in September?
She moved out in the end of September.
Mr. Webb, you got to get over this.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Philip Webb says ex-fiancée Crystal Batum owes for rent and the return of a wedding ring set. Crystal says Philip is still in love with her.
So did you pay your mother $300 on September 1st? You have a check for that, I assume.
No, I paid her cash. I paid her around the middle of the month when I had gotten my paycheck.
And what about in October? Did you pay her in October?
No, I had moved out.
When in October?
I moved out around the 5th, 6th of October.
And you mean you didn't pay her for October? For the first 6 days in October? You understand what I'm saying to you,
Yeah,
Mr.
I
Webb? Well,
understand.
you're getting my gist. Stop being petty. Now let's forget about the rent. And let's go to the ring set.
The ring set, I have the receipt where I purchased it.
Good. Do you have the proof that you paid for it?
I paid in cash. So.
Really? Let me see.
And the lady's business card that sold it to me.
I want to see what you have. And then Ms. Badham says that she paid for the ring set. So we're going to see. Paid for the ring set. This says paid $500, tax included. Now, Ms. Badham, you left sometime in September.
Yeah.
We had an argument, or you just decided things
No,
weren't
I got tired of everything and I just up and left.
Tell me why you took the ring set.
Well, because we both went in halves on it. We went to the bank, we pulled out some of the money, and then he went back and gave them the rest. And it wasn't 500, it was 300.
Well, he has a receipt that he paid for this.
Well, I have the rings, so.
We have them. Do you have any proof whatsoever, Miss Badham, that you paid for these rings?
No, because it came out of the ATM.
Okay. Good. Very nice. He gets them back. Perfect. Anything else?
No, that's it.
I want him to leave me alone, too, because I have a restraining order against him. And on February 12th, he mailed me a letter.
Can I see the letter?
Yes.
Can I see a copy of a restraining order? You attended a hearing, Mr. Webb, with regard to this restraining order?
Yes.
Did you consent to the restraining order?
I consented, but I didn't agree with it because
I don't care
a
whether
lot
you
of it
agreed
was...
with it or not. You consented to it.
Yes,
You were
I
to
did.
stay away within 100 yards from her,
And I have
from her
done so.
home, and from her job, right?
Yes.
Was her birthday?
Yes.
That's why you sent these?
Yes.
You're not allowed to send them.
I didn't know that. I just was told I had to stay away from her work and stay away from her.
Listen to me, Mr. Webb. You were served with a copy of this protective order.
Yes.
In this protective order, it not only says that you have to stay 100 yards away from her, it reads, and I'm going to read it to you very carefully. You may not do the following. You may not contact her directly or indirectly, or telephone, send messages, or mail or email. Now, while this is not threatening,
Yeah, I know.
I mean, it's a love letter. You're not understanding that it's over and that she doesn't want you to have any contact with her. Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
You don't want to get into any further difficulty. Is there any other thing that I have to resolve with regard to property or anything else?
Yeah, I have one more thing. I left my birth certificate there. I need my birth certificate back.
Okay. Now you can stand up. Your last name is Webb?
Correct.
You have her birth certificate?
I do.
Okay. I want you to give her birth certificate to your mother. Your mother is going to mail it to this court. This court will see to it that you get it.
Okay.
May I say something, please?
Yes.
I know you already went over the rent issue, but I have to bring it up again. It was August 2003. She was the only one with a job at that point.
I'm telling you, you spoke to her in the middle of August. She moved out in September. We're talking about petty stuff, Miss Webb.
I
Petty.
understand that, but
I'm telling you that you're talking about petty stuff. Your son moved out into the month of October. Did you sue him for the rent?
no, because he did
Just a
give
second.
me a full...
Just a second. Did you sue him for the rent?
No, I did not,
Of
ma'am.
course not, because you're not petty, right? Your son has to get over the fact that she doesn't want to have anything to do with him anymore. And you should, as his mother, not exacerbate it. You should say, listen.
No, I just want what's mine, and she owes the rent.
Well, I think that you should speak to your son about it.
He already paid her half.
No, he didn't.
Yes, he did.
Okay, good. You have a check?
No.
You have
No,
a check?
he paid me in cash
You have
for
a check?
$300.
Good. I don't believe you. Sit down. There is no need for you to contact her anymore. Put a period. You have the rings. You're not to email her, mail her, phone her, follow her, be within 100 yards of her. Got it?
Yes.
Otherwise, you're going to be in trouble. The fact that I've told this to you doesn't prevent her from going back to court and saying you violated the order. She can still do that. I don't know whether she wants to do that, but what she wants is she wants you to know unequivocally that you're not to have any contact with her. Clear?
Yes, I'm
good.
Perfectly
That's
clear.
all.
All right, excuse me. You may step out. Sir, you right here. That's case number 441 on the calendar in the matter of Smith versus Hampton. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat.
Mr. Smith, Miss Hampton is your former wife, and at the time you met, the defendant was pregnant. The child was born during your marriage, but you are not the child's biological father.
No, ma'am. It wasn't born during the marriage.
No, ma'am.
When was he born?
February 21st, 2001.
And when did you marry?
In April of 2001.
Could you keep your voice up, please? I'm old and my hearing is not as good as it used to be.
April of 2001.
Okay. I only devour litigants on Thursday. When did you separate?
It was about July of 2001.
So you were together for 3 months?
Yes.
When were you divorced?
Well, to the courts, we were divorced in 2002.
So you lived together as husband and wife for 3 months?
Yes,
and
ma'am.
the boy was born prior to that, but it was both of your understanding that this was not your biological child.
Yes, ma'am.
According to your complaint, you were incarcerated off and on from 2001 to 2003.
Yes, ma'am.
During that time, Miss Hampton obtained a divorce, named you as the child's father, and at some point you were ordered to pay child support. You were not present in court.
Yes,
it was a default. I don't know whether you were in jail or out of jail. Were you in jail or out of jail when there was a default?
I was in jail.
Had you been served with the papers?
No, ma'am.
In any event, subsequently, when you got out of jail, you went to court and you had the child support order stopped. But in the interim, money was deducted from whatever salary you had.
Yes, ma'am.
So you want that money back?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Hampton said that you were aware of the fact that you were not the child's biological father. You agreed to assume responsibility for his care. Your name is on the child's birth certificate. Is that correct?
No, ma'am.
Is not?
No. He was in jail at the time Tyler was born, so he was not able to sign the birth certificate.
Let me ask you this question, Ms. Hampton. Why did you, in the judgment of divorce, name Mr. Smith as the child's father?
I told my lawyer that he wasn't the father, but he had claimed responsibility. And my lawyer said that since we were living together before the child was born and afterward, and that he wanted my son to have his last name, that he was responsible for it.
Well, all of that is supposition on your lawyer's part, if in fact he told you that, because A, he had not signed the birth certificate, B, he had not claimed responsibility, and more importantly, according to the timeline that both of you gave me, you were married in April of 2001, and less than 3 months later, you separated. So this commitment that he made to your son was of short duration. Then he was in jail. Who was the child's father?
His father's name is Mike.
Is what?
Mike.
Mike. And did you notify Mike that he has a son?
He knows, but we have no contact with each other.
Well, who supports the boy?
I do.
And how long have you done that?
Since he was born.
Good. Then why did you pursue Mr. Smith for support?
I had quit working after I had my second child, and I went through family assistance, and they went after child support.
So you went on welfare?
Yes, ma'am.
After you had a second child with whom?
His name is James.
Shh. Now, where does James fit in this picture? Why didn't he support his child?
He does now, but we had broken up for a time due to a disagreement. We were both working and going to college, and he wasn't there when she was born.
So is what you're telling me that the state pursued the issue of support?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you receive any of this money, or did it all go to welfare?
Part of it went to welfare, and then I received the other part.
Well, do I have any indication of how much you received for the child support as opposed to the state?
I have none of that paperwork. The HR
Do you?
No, ma'am. Just what I paid in child support.
Listen, Mr. Smith, there's a problem, sir. My sense is that whatever you paid in child support, a part of that went to the state.
Yes, ma'am.
Not to her. I don't know how much that was. What were you in jail for, Mr. Smith?
Probation violation.
That's not a crime.
Yes, ma'am. It was breaking and entering a vehicle.
Burglary?
Yes, ma'am.
How many times?
One count of that. Yes, ma'am.
One count to cover how many charges, sir?
5.
You know, you think that these things just come to you?
No, ma'am.
There's experience there. You don't spend that much time in jail in this country with overcrowded prisons, unfortunately, for one count of breaking and entering into a car. But when you've been arrested a whole slew of times and you get a lawyer who says, look, we'll lump them all together, one count, how much time did you serve?
I was placed on probation under youthful offender.
And?
And then I had a 3-year sentence if I broke probation.
And did you?
Yes, ma'am.
How?
Failure to report to my probation officer.
Anything else?
That should be it. That's it.
You mean to tell me they put you back in jail for how long because you failed to report to your probation officer? Is that what you're telling me, Mr. Smith?
Well, it could have been...
And I don't want you to look over there. I want you to try to bring those eyes right back here.
I got attempting to elude because I had...
Attempting to elude?
Yes, ma'am.
Which means that you were running away from the police?
Yes, ma'am.
When they came to bring you in so that you could chat with your probation officer?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, when you were attempting to elude the police, how did you do that, Mr. Smith?
I ran.
How long did it take them to catch you?
About 6 hours.
So you were running pretty fast. How long have you been out of prison, Mr. Smith?
A year and a half.
Any trouble since?
No, ma'am.
Did you learn your lesson?
Yes, ma'am.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
I was just so distraught. She told DCFS that they were watching porno.
My children told me that they were watching naked people on TV.
falsely named him as the father of her child. He is suing her for the return of child support.
The problem, Mr. Smith, is that probably a good piece of this money went to the state where you live because they were supporting her and this little boy. How much did you pay for the divorce, sir?
I haven't paid anything.
And are you divorced now?
Yes.
Okay, and you paid about $3,000 in child support?
Yes, ma'am.
You're going to have to consider that the cost of your divorce, sir. If you don't want to think of it as child support, think of it as the cost of your divorce, because it is impossible for me to determine how much money of the money that was deducted from your salary went to Miss Hampton and how much went to the state. And I certainly can't, although there's a basic unfairness about it, I certainly can't say to her, you have to return the money to him when she didn't get it. So, you made some mistakes in your life, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
This was just another mistake. Costly, unfortunate, but there is nothing that I can do to help you.
I also had my lawyer fees where I had to take her back to court to get everything dropped.
That's a different story. Let me see that, please. Did you bring the baby to jail to visit him?
Yes, ma'am. He had called me a little bit before Father's Day, and I was nice enough to take Tyler up there to see him.
Why did you do that, sir?
Because then I had found out that she had filed for divorce stuff.
Why did you ask to see the baby?
I didn't. She brought him up there.
He asked how me and him were doing and everything like that, so I didn't.
But he didn't ask you to have regular visits with him while he was in jail with the baby?
Until right after we went to court and I did my statement to the judge, I had no idea where he was. I had not seen him.
So the answer is no. So how much in total did you pay the lawyer, sir?
$500.
Okay. Do you have the final copy of the judgment of divorce with
Yes,
the
ma'am.
modification on it, deleting the child's name? Let's see, please. Well, this talks about the child.
It also says she don't know where I was during the whole proceedings, but she did because I got the letter from jail.
But with that, I went to court on February 27th, before Father's
Of 2002.
Mm-hmm.
This judgment was filed March of 2002.
Yes, ma'am.
When did you find out where he was?
It was right before Father's Day. I don't remember what the day
How did you
was.
find out where he was?
He called me.
Was that the first time he had called you?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, the postmark on this letter is May of 2002.
Yes, ma'am.
What evidence do you have that she knew where you were?
It's highlighted.
Oh, it says here, I already knew you were here in jail and how you got caught. I had seen Chris in Walmart right after you were caught.
Yes, ma'am. That was right before he called. Actually, I think it was the day he called me from jail.
How much after you got caught, sir, did you call her?
It was probably about 3 months.
I believe you knew where he was. You all live in the same general vicinity?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, you knew where he was. Minimally, Miss Hampton, you're going to pay his legal fees because I think that you should have at least advised the judge that he was in jail and that he couldn't respond. And since he had to retain an attorney to at least get rid of the paragraph here that talks about the boy and that talks about visitation shall be at the discretion of the plaintiff, should have been a little more forthcoming with your lawyer. And you weren't. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $500. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I just wanted to get on with my life and start my new family and everything. I just can't believe that he even got with her because she's crazy.
Don't marry too many times.
Be very careful who you marry.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Jones versus Chun. Step forward, please.
Daycare provider Lori Jones is suing her former client, customer service rep Nina Chun, for unpaid babysitting fees and for making false allegations to Child Protective Services.
Mrs. Jones, you run a daycare agency?
Yes, I do.
And you were contacted by the defendant who asked you if you would take care of her children.
Yes.
You did for a short period of time. And during the last week, according to you, she gave you a check and then stopped payment on that check. She later removed her children from your care. You want that check, which was $90.
Yes.
And also, it is your claim that she maliciously contacted the State Department of Social Services, who licenses you, and reported that children in your care were being given substandard care. And you want to be compensated for that because it put you out of business for a while. The defendant says that you did, in fact, give her children substandard care, and she is counterclaiming for all the money she paid you for her children's care and for punitive damages.
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Chum, how did you find Mrs. Jones?
Well, I was looking for daycare for my children.
How old are your children?
They were 5 years old at the time.
Twins?
Yes. And I had seen Lori at some of the daycare meetings that I'd been to when I was providing child care. So I knew of her.
Fine. And you needed somebody immediately. You brought the children over when?
This was in July, on July 12th.
And what financial arrangements did you make?
They were going to be there for part-time, so she was charging me for part-time for the 2 children at $90 a week.
And how many weeks were the children there?
They were there for about 4.5 weeks or so.
And how many weeks did you pay for?
For all of the time that we were there.
Well, the last check, what happened?
I gave her the check on the Monday. Tuesday afternoon, I came and picked the children up as usual, and she wasn't there. Her husband was there, and I went and I said, you know, where's Lori? And I was told that she had taken one of her children to a doctor. I said, okay, but the children, as soon as my children sat down in the car, they told me that, Mommy, you know, they were watching naked people on TV.
Daycare provider Lori Jones says former client Nina Chum owes for child care fees and for making false allegations to Child Protective Services. Lori says Nina told authorities her husband was watching pornography while babysitting.
Did you ask the children to describe what they saw?
They just told me that there were naked people on TV, and to be honest with you, I was just so distraught, I didn't know what to think or what to do. I just drove home.
Did you question them any further?
I did ask if it was people on the beach, you know, what was it, you know, was it, because sometimes children may say that even people in underwear are naked, so I wanted to be sure, and they said no, they weren't wearing anything. And so that really bothered me, and I just contacted DCFS on the issue so that they could investigate further.
Okay, let's get to the 10th of August. Where were you?
I watched her kids up until about 3:15. And then I took my daughter to the doctor, and my husband watched her kids for me the last half hour.
Why didn't he take your children to the doctor?
I just wanted to, so I just left them with him.
Well, that was a mistake.
Yes, it was.
Is he a daycare provider?
No, he's not.
Then you made a mistake. You made a serious mistake. So the part of your lawsuit, quite frankly, that deals with punitive damages for reporting you to the state, I'm dismissing. If you have children in your charge and you've been licensed by the state, it is your obligation, absent an emergency, to take care of them. And you have absolutely no right to let your husband fill in. And this was a Tuesday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Is that right?
Right.
What was he doing home?
He had the day off. I don't remember exactly why he was off that day.
She told me he'd been laid off. So he'd been at home. Most of the time when you go, he's around the house mowing or doing other things.
Was he working at that time?
I don't remember. He's been laid off on and off since August. He'd work a couple weeks and they'd lay him off for a week, and then he'd work a month and they'd lay him off for 2 weeks. It's been that way since August.
Step up, sir. What were you watching on television, Mr. Jones?
Captain Ron. It's a comedy. I brought a copy
Is there any nudity in that movie?
It just shows that, no, there ain't no nudity. It shows them in bikinis and bathing suits.
PG.
PG-13.
It's still not appropriate for children.
Yeah, it is.
Just
it's
a second.
comedy.
No, PG-13 is not appropriate for children. That means parental guidance, not to watch till you're 13. That's what PG-13 means, Mr. Jones. 5-year-olds watch G-rated movies, not PG-13, right?
Right.
I mean, it's a comedy to you. You think that these 5-year-olds understand the comedy?
Mine does.
Well, then they've been watching too many PG-13 movies. Well, I would be, Miss Jones, quite frankly, I would be pretty annoyed, too.
She told DCFS that they were watching X-rated porno.
I did not tell them
That's
that.
what he told me.
What I said was the children told me they were watching naked people. Children
That's
don't
porno.
know the difference.
Just a second. No.
They don't know the difference
No.
between
That's not pornography. That's watching naked people. What you did was, and I don't even know if that's what he was watching. So you made 2 mistakes. A, you made arrangements to take your daughter to the doctor at 3:15 in the afternoon while you still had work to do. It was not an emergency. B, if it was an emergency, then you let him take your daughter to the doctor and you stay home. And if the reason that you didn't let him take your daughter to the hospital was because you didn't trust his judgment.
No, that's not it at all.
Well, then there can be no other reason when you say, I wanted to, rather than let him take her when you had a job to do. The reason is either you didn't take your job seriously, or you didn't trust his judgment in relaying to the doctor whatever ailment your daughter had. And if you didn't trust his judgment with regard to doing that, you don't trust his judgment with leaving him alone with strange children when he's an unlicensed, unregulated, untrained provider. And he's been doing nothing but sitting around watching TV all day. So he's probably had it up to here with kids. Counterclaim seeks the return of all your money. So I'm going to give you an analogy of why you're not going to get all the money back. Okay. Let's say you've been going to a local restaurant for 2 years. One day you go there and you find a roach in your salad. And you say, I'm not paying for this meal. There was a roach in my salad, right? I would say you're absolutely right. You shouldn't have to pay for that meal. You say, not only don't I want to pay for that meal, I've been going there 2 years. I want all the money back that I spent in this restaurant over the last 2 years. Would you get it back?
No, I
So
understand.
I think that you were absolutely right to contact the state. I think that her actions in leaving the children with an unlicensed provider is inappropriate. I'm not exactly sure what he was watching on television.
That's what
the best
concerns me.
scenario is he was watching a PG movie, and he shouldn't have been with 5-year-olds. So your claim is dismissed. Understood?
I do understand that. However, I was really, truly shocked, and it was offensive, I feel, to the children in her care, her own children, and to my children.
Then why don't you tell the judge why you got your daycare license stripped from you?
I didn't get my
listen
daycare license
to me.
stripped.
Listen to me. It's not about her.
Okay, that's offensive.
Shh. It's not about her. It's about you. You did the wrong thing. And he did the wrong thing. She made a complaint, and she was justified in making her complaint. And if she was justified in making a complaint, it boggles my mind why you're suing her. That's all. Case is dismissed.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Now, this is case number 492 on the calendar, the matter of Underwood versus Burge. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
You're the wife?
Yes, ma'am.
You're the girlfriend?
The ex-girlfriend.
You're the bargain? Don't see it. So something special that's just between you and you. Miss Underwood, according to your complaint, Mr. Burge and you were involved in a relationship. You didn't know that he was still married at the time.
Correct.
And you loaned him money. Loaned him
Correct.
money to do something called lifting his truck. I don't know what that means. You'll explain it to me in 10 seconds or less. Then you bailed out his car when it got impounded. What else?
2 tickets.
2 tickets. And you said you made loans to him because you actually thought that you were going to be building a life together based upon his promises and his statement that you were going to go to live in Arizona together and whatever. When you tried to find out when he was going to pay you, you went to his house and lo and behold, his wife answered the door.
Correct.
Mr. Burge says everything that you gave him that he acknowledges he took were given as gifts.
Yes, Your Honor.
And he never fooled you. You knew that he was married and that he had children because he has tattoos of them all over him.
Tattoos does not mean that he's
That they're
still
still
married, or the fact that...
And he says he doesn't owe you a quarter. Right?
Yes, Your Honor.
How long are you married, Mr. Burge?
Over 6 years.
You have children?
Yes, 4.
When did you leave your wife?
Around April, May.
And when did you meet Miss Underwood?
Right at the end of May.
Where?
Through an ad in the paper.
What kind of an ad?
It was like a penny saver ad.
What did it say? Shh, quiet!
It said, you know, this is who I am. And so I responded to it. You know, she sounded interesting.
Why, after 6 years of marriage and 4 children, you separated? In a couple of weeks, you felt the necessity to find somebody else?
It's just, I like having someone around. I wasn't out to build a relationship. I was out to find a friend. And, you know, things were going good with us.
And when, for the first time, did she give you money?
It would be September 9th, if I'm not mistaken.
Right? Yeah.
September 9th.
But I didn't give him anything.
Shh. Tell me what she gave you money for.
She did a lift on my truck.
Well, I don't know what that means. A lift for your truck means it's raised off the ground?
It raises it off the ground with bigger tires.
Why did you need that?
It was just something I wanted.
You have 4 children, so don't you think you should want to send them more money than raise your truck off the ground?
My children are well taken care of.
How much money did you earn?
Say again?
How much money did you earn?
I was making $15 an hour.
Oh, my God. A fortune. So what you're telling me is, on $15 an hour, you can support your 4 children and you.
My wife works also.
How old are your children?
Twin 9-year-olds, a 5-year-old daughter and a 4-year-old boy.
And who watches them when you're both working?
Daycare.
Who pays for the daycare?
We do.
Really? Your wife must be a very successful CEO of a major company.
No, she just works very hard for what she gets.
Harder than you.
We work equally.
Really? What kind of work do you do, Miss Burge?
I work for the phone company.
What's your annual salary?
54.
So you're the primary breadwinner in your family?
I make more an hour, yes.
Stand up. How many months were you separated from your husband?
Roughly about 6.
How much money did he send you for support during those 6 months?
We still live together, but we just stayed.
Is what you're telling me, Miss Burge, that you still lived under the same roof while you were separated?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you know that, Miss Underwood?
No, I did not.
You think your husband told that to her?
I don't know.
Trust me. Did he tell you about Miss Underwood?
No, we didn't share personal stuff about each other.
No, only 4 children. Did you ask him where he got the money to have his truck lifted?
No, ma'am.
Let's see. Where did Mr. Burge tell you that he was living?
He said exactly where he was living.
Had you ever been there to visit him?
No, because he was always at my house.
How often was he at your house?
A couple times during the week, not for very long, but he came over a couple times during the week on Sundays, because Sunday was his only day off.
But you never went to his house until you were looking for him for the money?
Until New Year's Eve, correct.
Well, you weren't looking for him for money New Year's Eve. You were just looking to find him?
I actually was just looking to find him because he told me that we would be together, and then his friends called and said that he was drunk and passed out, so they were taking him to their house. So I decided that enough was enough, and I wanted to go find out what was going on, and lo and behold, the wife and 4 kids answered the door.
Mr. Burge, did you tell Miss Underwood that you were still living at home with your wife?
No, I didn't, Your Honor.
Why not?
I didn't see it as relevant at the time. We were just friends.
Well, you were friends, you were intimate.
Yeah.
You had taken money from her.
Yeah.
You knew that she had feelings for you.
Yes.
Did you feel as if you were being honest with her?
Not completely, no.
Right. I think you got the better end of the deal.
I think so, too.
Unfortunately, she didn't find out about his character until they had 4 children together.
That's her problem.
That's her problem. And not only that,
she can have him. I don't want him.
She can have him.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
It was okay for her to do this for him until she found out that we were still living together and he left her.
Because you got the prize. I want to tell you, my darling, you got the booby prize.
And later today.
Were you planning to get married?
Yes, we were going to be married September 17th, a week after he unfortunately passed away.
People invited to the wedding?
Yes.
Including his daughter?
No.
Owes for having his truck lifted and for impound fees. Tammy says Sean is living a double life.
Tell me about having the truck lifted.
He said that the weight of all the tools and stuff he used for work weighed the truck down too much, so if we did that, then it wouldn't be as much of a strain on the truck. And at that point, I'm agreeing that, you know, we're going to try and start a life. We had already talked about starting a life, and I told him, okay, I said, this is the deal. I have a credit card that just got paid off. We could do this, but you have to make the payments on it.
And he said?
He said, okay. He said that would not be a problem. He would be able to make the payments. So we...
Now let me hear your version of the truck, sir.
Your Honor, months or weeks before that, we were talking. My birthday was coming up in October, and she asked me, you know, what do you want for your birthday? Jokingly, I said, I'd like to get my truck lifted. I never made arrangements to pay anything back, because if I could afford to pay her back on it, I would have paid for it myself.
What was the next thing you paid off for him?
His truck got towed.
When did your truck get towed?
I don't remember the exact date.
And what did you do when you found out it was towed?
I called to her and asked her if she could get it out.
Why don't you call your wife?
I didn't choose to.
You can either have a happy life or an unhappy life. The choice is yours. Do you understand?
I understand.
Just because you make an initial mistake doesn't mean that you have to go through your whole life suffering for it. How much did it cost to have the truck lifted?
$32.50.
How much did it cost to get the car out of impound?
$318.
And now we have the tickets. What about the tickets? Did he ask you to pay those tickets?
Yes, he called me at work and said, can we afford for you to pay the tickets? And I said, there's no we. I can do it if you can make the payments. I said, you have to agree to make the payments.
How much were the tickets?
One was $606 and one was $446.
What do you want to say?
I wanted to mention that I just want to reflect back on something that she had said when she said that he used to come over quite frequently. He works Monday through Saturday, and he was only gone on a Sunday a few times that I can recall.
Well, what do you think that this phantom relationship that he had with Miss Underwood was?
I really don't know. I wasn't involved in it, but
right.
I
You
knew...
do know, however, that he solicited her friendship while the two of you were married and living under the same roof.
Mm-hmm.
That he asked her for help, according to him, right?
Right.
All something that someone would say to a new friend. We're building something together. I need some help right now. Mm-hmm. Separated from my wife, whatever. We're divorced. I don't know. Did he say you separated or divorced?
No, said he was divorced for about 1.5 years.
Got it?
Mm-hmm.
Got it?
I understand that.
Do you believe her that that's what he said? I want you to believe her, Miss Burge.
Okay.
That's what he said.
May I mention another thing?
Sure.
The night that she showed up on our doorstep, she did mention to me that she had told him that he needs to put an effort toward the relationship where she was going to sue him for the money.
And your point would be?
You know, it was okay for her to do this for him until she found out that we were still living together and that he and I ended up going, you know, started working on a relationship and he left her.
Because you got the prize. Is that right? Because you got the prize? And she didn't. And she didn't. I want to tell you, my darling, you got the booby prize.
Burge owes for having his truck lifted and for impound fees. Tammy says Sean is living a double life.
He's an unethical, amoral man who used her when it suited him. And he didn't even have the decency to say to her, I'm going back to my wife. I know you spent almost $5,000 on me. I'm going to pay you back, little by little, whatever it takes, because I don't want you to feel as if you've been abused by me. Do you understand? That would have been a decent human being. Instead, he says, see ya. You feel like a fool? You were a fool? I'm going back to my wife with my new lifted truck. And if that's the kind of character you want your children to grow up around, stick with them. You will reap what you sow. The next fool will be you. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $4,620. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you.
All these are excused. You may step out.
We started building a life together. He said he loved me, and I never knew about the wife until New Year's Eve.
I didn't lie to her about anything. I might not have told her things, but I didn't lie to her.
We had all kinds of plans. It wasn't just like a month, okay, boom, done, you know.
It just didn't work between me and her.
Christmas, you know, he promised my son he would be there, and all of a sudden didn't show.
Mistress is a mistress, you know. You end up coming out with everything or you come out with nothing.
It really hurt, because I was in love with him, so, but she can have him.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Fitzgerald versus Whitney. Step forward, please.
23-year-old homemaker Kimberly Fitzgerald is suing her deceased father's fiancée, Leslie Whitney, for the return of her father's belongings. Kimberly says Leslie is a scammer.
Miss Fitzgerald, Miss Whitney and your father were together at the time that he died, and he died suddenly. He was a young man. He had a heart attack. And you want some property that you say belonged to your father. You're one of 2 children. You say your brother doesn't want anything of your father's. You do. He died without a will. And according to you, Miss Whitney won't let you have his belongings. Right?
Yep.
When did your father have a heart attack? Do you know the date?
September 9th, 2004.
And prior to September 9th, when had you seen him?
I saw him about 3 days earlier.
Where?
He stopped by my house to see my son. Well, and me.
Prior to September the 6th, when your father came to see your son, when had you previously seen him?
The 4th of July.
How old was your father?
57.
Miss Whitney, how long had you and Vincent been together?
Over a year we were together, but we did not live together until June of last year.
He had another girlfriend in March.
Shh. You moved into his house?
Yes.
Where was he when he passed away?
He was on the road. He was a truck driver.
According to what I read, Vincent took out a life insurance policy with you as the beneficiary. Is
Yes.
that right? When did he do that?
In August.
Were you planning to get married?
Yes, we were going to be married September 17th, a week after he unfortunately passed away.
People invited to the wedding?
Yes.
Including his daughter?
No.
Why not?
He said that he didn't want, there wasn't a close-knit family, and that's what he had told me. I had never met her, and he offered to, when he wanted to go see his grandchild and stuff, but it was like an in-and-out thing. He never really talked about his children.
How much was the life insurance policy that he took out in August?
$20,000.
But he named you as the beneficiary?
Yes.
Was there any other life insurance policy for any of his children?
No, there was not.
Did he have any bank accounts?
Yes, he did, but one was overdrawn, and the other one only had about $50 in it.
Now, I gather the day after your father died, you and your mother
Yes.
went to his apartment.
Yes. I didn't even know about her.
And how did you get into his apartment?
I was sitting outside. I didn't go into the apartment until Leslie came home.
How did your mother get into the apartment?
I don't know.
How did they get into the apartment?
They climbed through the kitchen window. It was a basement apartment. The windows were level with the ground. And I was on my way back from the hospital, and I came home, and she was outside with the baby, and the mother was in in the bedroom.
What was your mother doing there?
She told me to wait outside. We had gone to my father's house to get his suit so that he could be buried. We were making preparations for his wake, and there was other paperwork and stuff that I needed. Since I am the administrator of my father's estate, I needed to get paperwork to straighten
Well,
everything
you weren't
out.
the administrator of his estate at that time because he died without a will.
No, at that
so
time I was not.
you had to petition the court for letters of administration.
Yes.
Did you do that?
Yes, I did.
Now, according to Miss Whitney, she ultimately allowed you to come in and take certain property from the apartment.
Yes.
Okay. Now you're going to tell me what it is that you want.
We just want...
Who's we?
Well, okay, I just want the value of the property that was missing that Leslie told me I could have.
What do you want? Not the value. What do you want?
The kitchen table, the computer, the camera with the printer.
Kitchen table?
No, there's no kitchen table.
There's no kitchen table.
I moved
What else?
into the house myself.
What year?
Beginning of end of 2003.
Get over it. What else?
The computer. There was a brand new computer.
Where's the computer?
There was no computer. There was no computer. There's no kitchen table.
Okay. You have no idea where the computer is?
No, I don't.
What's next?
The digital camera.
Digital camera.
No, I don't. He had that. He used to carry that with him in his truck, and I didn't
What's
go
next?
to the truck.
The printer that went with the digital camera.
Miss Fitzgerald, get over it. From what I gather, based upon the fact that your father had taken out a life insurance policy, and instead of naming his 2 children as beneficiaries. He named this lady as a beneficiary of his insurance policy. You did not enjoy with your father the kind of relationship that was warm.
22-year-old Amy Freshley is suing former friend Herman Velasquez for rental car charges and for damages to the vehicle. Herman claims he owes Amy nothing.
Miss Freshley, you had an automobile accident.
Yes.
You knew the defendant, who was a mechanic, and you entered into an agreement with him that he would fix your car.
Right.
And according to you, your agreement was that the car would be ready in a week or 5 days. If it went over that, he was going to compensate you for the rental car.
Exactly.
Now, the car wasn't ready on time. He was supposed to pay for the additional days.
Right.
In addition to that, it is your claim that he took the rental car.
Exactly.
Which, for some reason, you left at his shop, drove it, and caused damage to it, and you were being charged by Enterprise Rental Car for the damage that you ascribed to him.
Exactly.
Okay. The car you were in an accident with was a 95 Tahoe?
Yes.
Is that your car?
Yes.
Alone?
Me and my boyfriend's car.
Who purchased it?
We both did.
You have insurance?
Yes.
Did the insurance pay for the accident?
Yes.
How much?
$4,045.
Who did they pay that to?
Paid it to me and my boyfriend.
Did you take the money?
I took the money and paid Herman $2,800.
They paid you $4,000 for something that he fixed for $2,800?
Yep.
And it never dawned on you to take the rest of the money and give it back to them?
They didn't ask for it back. They said they wouldn't pay for the rental, so I figured I'd use also some of that for a rental because I wouldn't have a car for a week.
Okay. So let us say he took the car, which you acknowledge. You took the car.
Yeah.
Don't acknowledge that you had an accident with it or that you damaged it.
No.
But you acknowledge you took it.
Yeah.
So let's say $2,800 is what he charged you for the car.
Yes.
Plus you say that he should be responsible $340 for the additional days that the car was rented when he didn't have it fixed on time.
Yes.
Right? Plus $340. Plus $701 for damage to the car.
Yes.
That's $3,841. Did you have any other expenses by virtue of this accident that you had?
No.
Well, my calculations are that you're still ahead $200 from what you scammed out of the insurance company. You expect me to give you more money? What are you looking at me? Am I speaking some sort of a foreign
No,
language
I just expected to be paid for a car that I rented, and he said he'd pay for the extra week.
You didn't pay for the extra week. Your insurance company did. Think of it this way. On what date did you have the accident? March 29th?
Yes.
March 29th. On March 29th, you started off with a car that was in good running order.
Yes.
Right? And zero in the bank. On April 15th, you had $4,045 in the bank from the insurance company.
Yes.
2 weeks later, you had your car back. You had rented a car, and you still have an extra $200 in your bank. Now, what you want me to do is give you the extra $200, plus you want him to pay you $1,100.
Yes, I would.
That means that at the end of this accident, you have your car
and an
extra $1,300. Insurance isn't supposed to make you rich, madam. It is supposed to compensate you for your damage.
But that wasn't the deal when I had rented.
The deal that you entered into with your insurance company is to be an honest insured. I'm speaking. The deal that you entered into with your insurance company is that if you had an accident, they were going to compensate you for the reasonable cost of having your car fixed. And the reasonable cost of you having your car fixed was $2,800.
That's because he told me that's how much it was going to cost.
So why didn't you tell that to the insurance company?
I did. He actually wrote up something higher than what he was going to charge me.
And did you tell the insurance company that he did
No.
that? Let me tell you all about the doctrine of clean hands. The doctrine of clean hands is something that we learned very early on in law school. It says that when a citizen comes into court and asks the court to hear their case, they can't come in with dirty hands, which means they can't come in being wrong, scamming somebody and saying, well, he's a worse scammer than I am. Why won't you help me? What he did was worse. I had a deal with him. We had a deal that he was going to jack up the cost of fixing the car. He was going to have the adjuster come to his place and say it needs this and this and this and this and this. And he was going to get $2,800 to fix it, and I was going to end up pocketing the rest, which was $1,000 or whatever. And the only one that was going to be out is the insurance company, and they got plenty of money anyway.
Why?
So, madam, you get from me nothing. Zippo, nada, except a lesson in morality. Your case is dismissed.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Crystal Padilla claims the father of her child, James Kern, falsely accused her of abuse to Child Protective Services. She is suing for her attorney fees.
Ms. Padilla, this is your ex-husband. You've been divorced since when?
Our divorce was finalized in November of 2004.
And you have one child together?
Yes.
How old is that child?
He's now 5.
I'd like you to keep your voice up, Ms. Padilla, because I have difficulty hearing you. Not because there's anything terribly wrong with my hearing, but I know that you may be a little nervous. You're speaking softly. You have to speak up like me.
No problem.
Great. Make believe you're yelling at him.
Shouldn't be a problem.
Your lawsuit alleges that Mr. Kern filed false allegations against you with Child Protective Services, forcing you to hire an attorney. You want your attorney's fees back and the expenses that you incurred as a result of defending that litigation. Mr. Kern says he had legitimate concerns over his child, and that's why he made the report. Okay? Do you have other children?
1.
How old?
Same age. A little older by a few months.
Who does that child live with?
Her. I didn't know of his existence till long after he was born. It's quite a story.
Well, it's quite a story, but it has an age-old beginning.
They're 6 weeks apart.
Another 10.
And I assume you've done the appropriate DNA testing and everything else? Paternity testing?
Correct.
So that while you were married, you fathered another child. Is that right?
No, it was before I was married. Before her and I got married, her and I were together. She told me she had an abortion, so we never talked again. Me and her got back together. And then after, actually the day my son Cameron was born, I get another phone call from her saying, oh, guess what?
Do you see that child?
No.
So that there are no other siblings in your house?
No.
How many children do you have?
I have 2.
How old are they?
They're 7 and 5.
The 7-year-old is not Mr. Kern's child?
No.
When did you and Mr. Kern separate?
In November of 2002.
So the baby was an infant. Is there any issue as far as custody at that time?
At that time, Mr. Kern left, and Cameron did stay with me. And when we did our divorce papers, we decided to do 50-50 custody. And up until this recent event, we did share 50-50 custody.
When you say 50-50 custody, how did that break down in the week?
We would alternate weeks. 1 week I would have 3 days, he would have 4. The next week I would have 4 days, he would have 3.
So that really required that you live in close proximity to each other.
At the time, I was in Riverside, California, and he was up in Apple Valley, so about an hour away.
So, Mr. Kern, you had your son half the time.
Correct.
But you, I assume, always knew that there would come a time when he went to school and you couldn't have that kind of an arrangement because you can't live an hour away from each other and still do that.
Correct. I offered to put him in private school, and she didn't want that. She lives in Colton.
Just a second. You offered to put him in private school near you.
Correct.
Well, she didn't want him to be in a private school near you. Shh, Mr. Kern, because that would mean that she would lose her 50% of the custody time. Sure it would, because if he's in private school near you, of necessity, he has to spend 5 days a week at your house. In any event, she said, no, I want to put him to school where I am, right?
Correct.
She wanted the child to go to school in her location. You wanted the child to go to school in your location. And then the trouble began. So, Mr. Kern, why don't you tell me the timeline from there? She brought papers to you to ask you to sign off so that you could register the child in school.
Yeah, and that if I didn't agree, she wouldn't let me have my son. She was going to leave in the parking lot right then and there. Actually, it started long before that. My son had lots of marks and bruises on him that were questionable. And every time I'd ask her, you know, how did this happen? It was always the same story. Oh, he got it playing with his brother, or he got it fighting with his brother. One February day, she called me, said, hey, you know, he had a bit of an accident. I don't know if I'm going to take him to the hospital or not. I'm just letting you know. I said, okay, do I need to come down there? You know, I'll take it myself. She said, no. He showed up that weekend, and I have pictures right here. He has a complete black eye. He has a gash in his eye.
I'd like to see it.
And these are some other pictures of bruises and marks on him from when he's come from her house. Hand marks, bruise on his shoulder, other marks on his face from different times. And I took those pictures to my attorney, asked them what they think I should do, and that's when I took that to the court.
I wouldn't say a word if I were you. You are no relation to this case.
That's my wife.
I understand exactly who it is, sir. I understand exactly who it is, and if you want the situation with your son to ultimately resolve itself, I would suggest that she let you do the talking. That's the problem. Well, see black and blue marks on his arms.
I also have a video that I think you need to see that's important in this case.
This is his leg.
This is just one of 100 times of how he acts when he goes back to his mother. And I think it's very important that you see this video right here.
Sure.
And after my attorney told me, you know, after I took that to court for ex parte.
Don't tell me what your attorney told you, sir. What your attorney told you was hearsay.
All right, here we go, guys.
Cameron, come on, baby. Hey, the sooner you go with your mommy, the sooner I get to come get you and we get to Christmas. Come on, honey. Cameron. Come on, it's time to go with your mommy, honey. No. Don't do that. Come on. Mommy misses you and she wants to see you. Okay, baby? Come on.
I've seen enough. Turn it off, please.
That's not even the good part. The part where he throws himself on the ground, and I asked, you know, let me talk to him to calm him down. She won't let me. He's banging on the window in her car, you know, screaming for me, and takes off.
I don't understand why you're photographing this.
Well, actually, that was upon her request in the court. She wanted to videotape pickups or drop-offs, so if somebody said something they shouldn't, they could take it to court.
That was at her request? Is that right?
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, I have it on the minutes.
I'd like to see it. It's a major concern to me to videotape a child like that, who's clearly as young as he is, playing for the camera. Well, this just says the parties stipulate that the visitation exchanges may be videotaped and audiotaped.
Yeah, she did that because she accused me of bad-mouthing her when I pick up or drop off my son. So the judge said that we can videotape or audiotape the pickup or drop-offs. And they...
Just a second. And she didn't ask for it. She accused you,
and when we went to
Kern.
court, her
Mr.
attorney
Kern,
said...
Listen to me. I'm really big on two parents getting involved and being integral parts of their children's lives, fathers and mothers. I think it's really important. And I don't know which one of you is a better custodial parent. I really don't know. Sounds to me as if you adore him.
It's my life.
And it sounds to me, based upon the answer that you submitted to me, that you legitimately feel that you are a more fit custodial parent. Maybe. But I'm telling you what I'm seeing. The injuries that you've shown me here are nothing compared to what my kids had when they were growing up.
But if your kid came
broken
on his face or something,
broken
would you not be
arms,
concerned?
jumping off the beds with their siblings, banging heads, getting hit in the face with a lacrosse stick, all kinds of things happen to children, especially children who have a close in age sibling.
But then where's the supervision?
Excuse me?
If something like that happens to his face because he was fighting with his brother, where was the supervision?
Can't supervise children all the time, Mr. Kern. What planet are you living on, sir?
This one. These things don't happen at my house. I have 2 full-grown German Shepherds. He has his own bike. He has everything in the world a kid could ever want. And these things don't happen in my home.
Mr. Kern, what you don't have in your house is another child. The only issue in this case, as far as I'm concerned, is do these pictures of marks on the child give him sufficient reason for him to have placed a call to Child Protective Services to investigate?
I never called Child Protective Services. I just filed an ex parte hearing saying, you know, for my concerns about those marks. I never called CPS not once.
Just a second. So you filed a proceeding, an ex parte proceeding, for what?
To get custody of my son so we could find out what was going on. I have letters here from a psychotherapist.
Just a second. So you had 50-50 custody, and based upon these photographs, you went to court through your attorney and filed an ex parte order seeking physical custody full-time of your child based upon these photographs.
And letters from a psychotherapist that interviewed my son to find out where the marks were coming from, which I have these right here as well.
So while the child was with you, in addition to taking these photographs, you took him to a psychologist.
Yeah, upon my attorney's advice.
Listen, Mr. Kern, I was there for 25 years. I know exactly what's going on, sir. I know precisely what's going on. Now, when did you file your ex parte proceedings, sir?
End of April '06.
And when did Miss Padilla tell you that she wasn't going to allow you to enroll the child in private school in your area?
She served me on my first wedding anniversary, which is March 12th, '06, and that's where the court papers began.
Just a second. So in March of '06, Miss Padilla served you with papers seeking what?
That she wanted him to go to school in her area, which is Colton.
So she served you with papers in March of '06. And in April of '06, you saw an attorney, brought photographs, and at that point filed your own ex parte order for of custody based upon allegations of abuse. Is that right?
According, yes.
I'm getting the timeline here.
Upon my attorney's advice.
That wasn't his first response to my petition. His original response noted nothing of physical abuse.
Okay. Then he took these pictures that he had been saving up and storing up since December of 2005
That's not true.
to the
On my
attorney.
first response, noted a lot of things. The fact that she lived in a 2-bedroom apartment with her sister and her 2 children, with her other son and my son. My son coming to my house telling me he sleeps on the couch with his brother while she sleeps in a room with her boyfriend.
Mr. Kern, how much support do you pay for that child support?
Which one?
That lady's child. Hmm?
$250
$250 or what?
a month.
Pay it every month?
Nope.
So you don't pay child support?
Not every month. Sometimes I get behind on bills and stuff. I can't make the payment.
He hasn't paid in over 2 years.
Yes, I have.
I'm getting there. And how much child support do you pay now for this child?
I believe it was $400 a month if she took him to school. I let my employer have the information, and I don't think they've started that yet.
So how much do you pay her?
$400 a month or something like that. I don't quite
$400.
recall.
Well, the employer hasn't started deducting it from your salary yet. So how much do you give her every month?
Nothing.
Why?
Because if I give it to her, she'll never report it.
But in between the time that the child support order takes place, sir, and they start with the income deduction order, months could go by before that happens. So how do you expect your child to be supported? Okay, so now you have 2 children, and if I am correct, from what you tell me, Mr. Kern, who you want me to believe you're Father of the Year, you have 2 children for whom you are currently paying 0 child support. And this from a man who said, I want to put my son in private school near me.
I had 50% custody at the time.
No,
Actually,
no,
I
no,
had
listen
more.
to me. Listen to me. This is from a man who said, I want to pay for private school. And now you tell me that you have 2 children, 5 years old, for whom you are currently paying nothing in child support.
That's not every month. Just because she hasn't received hers yet, that's the child support agency, not my fault. I'm not going to give it to her and have her deny it.
You got where we're going? He thinks he's a step ahead of me. I was there for 25 years, Mr. Kern. I know exactly what's going on. Exactly. Well, let's finish the scenario. You went to court. You had a lawyer. Did you have a lawyer?
On the Monday, I went to...
Just answer my question. Did you have a lawyer?
On our next court date, we did.
And the child's custody was immediately transferred to the father.
For
Is
the
that
month
right?
pending.
Just answer my question.
Yes.
For how long did Mr. Kern have custody?
Until May 17th of 2006.
And then what happened?
That was our original court date, and we went to mediation.
When you went back to mediation, was a forensic expert assigned to the case?
No.
We were assigned to do a 7:30 evaluation.
And what was the name of the therapist who was doing the evaluation?
Dr. Michael.
You have a copy of that report?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see it. So as a result, I assume, at least in part of the forensic evaluation, the court determined that the custody arrangement that you originally agreed to was not workable.
Correct.
Is that right? And ultimately, primary physical custody was ordered to you.
Yes, it was.
And the court granted you visitation 3 weekends a month. Is that right?
Big drop from having them half the time, huh?
Absolutely right, sir. Absolutely right. You're supposed to try to work things out. You're supposed to be smart enough to know that whatever custody arrangement you make when a child is 2 is not going to be able to hold true when the child is 6 or 8 or 10 or 12. And you're supposed to be able to work with each other. And just because you got angry that she wasn't going to allow you to have your way...
How's that right? These pictures were started being taken in December, beginning of December, when she filed in March. So, you know, magically appeared some pictures in December.
Kern,
These are concerns I've had for a while.
Either that, sir, or you don't understand what it's like to be a 5-year-old with a 7-year-old sibling, with a black and blue mark on the knee, with a scratch above the eye, with a black and blue mark on the hand, with scrapes across the face. It happens. And nothing that I read in this report suggested, absolutely nothing, that your child complained that any of those marks were as a result of his mother's actions.
I have some other letters here that you should read then.
Absolutely.
There is also a section about her in the 7:30 evaluation, the psychotherapist that wrote the letters that he's showing you now. And nowhere in that report does he say, my mommy hits me, my mommy beats me.
No, but it does talk about domestic violence, about how her boyfriend hits her and she hit him back.
Listen,
and that's from what he's seen.
The problem, Mr. Kern, is that you really are going to have to back off in interfering with what goes on in her house.
If your child sees domestic violence, should I not be concerned?
What I'm telling you is you have to back off as to what goes on in her house, you're not supposed to ask your son anything about what goes on in her house.
The therapist asked him that.
I didn't say the therapist. I said you're not supposed to ask him anything about what goes on in his house. And she's not supposed to ask him anything about what goes on in your house. You're both supposed to assume that each of you love him and want to take care of him and want to protect him and do the right thing. That's what you're supposed to assume. And you, Mr. Kern, are supposed to pay child support for that child, for this child, who you now don't have in your custody. I mean, I read the report, and the report indicated that when this forensic evaluation was done, your son says you don't work, and you're home all the time.
No, I'm a contractor, so I choose my own hours.
That's what he says. He says, my father doesn't work.
Well, I make sure I'm home when he's there.
I'm telling you what your son says, sir.
And I know what he says, and I'll make
His son
explain it
says,
to you.
my father doesn't work. Well, that's not a good thing for a child to even think, that his father doesn't work. That's what he said. Told the
Well, that's
therapist,
because he's
my
5
father
years
doesn't.
old. He thinks a magic wand pays the bills. Just because I go out of my way to make sure I'm home when he's there so we can spend time together. I work when he's not with me.
If you have him with you 4 days a week, sir, you should be working
It's
part
not
of that
4 days
time.
a week.
That's what you told me.
I'm not home
You told
4
me
days
that
a week.
you
It
had
could be 3 days a week
50-50
1
custody.
Week. It could be 3 1 week. It could be 2 if my
Mr.
wife's
Kern,
off.
you've got an
she
answer
watches
for
him.
everything, sir. What you're asking me for is counsel fees. That's what you're asking me for.
Right.
Counsel fees. And I'm not granting those because he went to an attorney. I just want you to think about this. He went to an attorney and sought the advice of counsel who represented him when you filed an application to terminate the 50-50 custody arrangement. So you filed the petition first. He had to hire a lawyer. And he just said, I'd rather be on the offensive rather than on the defensive because that's his temperament.
Well, he didn't consult an attorney first. He stated that my father told him to take me to court.
No, I didn't.
He went, listen, did he have an attorney representing him?
At the ex parte hearing, he did, yes.
Did he have the attorney representing him in the case that you filed?
No.
I'm talking about the original date in May, because that you said was the original court date you had on your application. Did you have an attorney or not?
Yes.
I believe he had an attorney. His attorney started the process, so the attorney had necessity had to be with him. You don't get your counsel fees. It's unfortunate that both of you spent your money on legal fees, but you don't get your counsel fees, just like he doesn't get his. But he's better start to pay child support.
They can't find any child support because I've received a 2-cent check since the child support was ordered.
That is not true.
Well,
here you go.
If he doesn't pay the child support order, what I'm going to suggest you do is go to the court and ask to have his driver's license suspended. You too. The first thing that states have to do under federal guidelines is license. And as a contractor, he needs that. Otherwise, his wife is going to have to drive herself to work and him to work. Don't let him get away without paying child support. That's his obligation as a parent, to you and to you and to your children. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Your case is dismissed. He's not required to pay your counsel fees. That's all. Step out.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Roberta Schumann is suing her ex-boyfriend, Scott Beer, for a loan to buy a Harley-Davidson. Scott says Roberta stopped paying rent, so he owes her nothing.
Ms. Schumann, Mr. Beer and you were in a relationship for a period of time. You also lived with him for a period of time in his home. You claim that you made a loan to him so that he... Now, Mr. Beer acknowledges that you made this loan to him.
Correct.
He says that subsequently you moved in with him and you agreed to pay rent, which you didn't pay.
Correct.
And you made a new arrangement whereby he would pay your portion of the rent that you had agreed to pay and deduct that from the loan. And by the time he told you to leave, you had done several things. First, you stole a money jar from him, which you acknowledged that you did because you were annoyed. And then there were some other small items that ate into this loan. But you claim that there was never an agreement with regard to the rent in exchange for the loan.
That is correct.
Okay. On what date did you make the loan?
Well, there was two. There was 2 dates. One was 11.
One right after the other. I know. Give me the 2 dates.
Like April. April of 2007.
And when did you move in with Mr. Beer?
May 15th.
Right afterwards?
Yes.
Where had you been living?
I lived in my own townhouse in Blaine.
What did you do with your townhouse?
I sold it. I found out 3 days before I was moving in with Mr. Beer that he was sleeping with my best friend.
I don't care about that. You want to discuss that, go someplace else. That has nothing to do with me. You sold your townhouse, you moved in with him. What was the rent agreement?
$300 per person is what he charged his other tenants when they lived there before. It was a couple. He charged them $600.
And how much were you supposed to pay in rent?
He assumed $600.
No. What did you discuss?
It was $600 when my son was supposed to come and live with us. My son never came and lived with us. I never even had a key to the door.
I don't care whether you had a key to the door. You slept there, correct?
Correct.
And there was an agreement to pay rent. All I'm trying to do is figure out how much. How much, sir?
$600 for the basement.
Is that where she was living?
Yep.
She wasn't staying with you?
Most of the time.
What does that mean?
Off and on, she'd stay up in my place. But I mean, it was run of the house, too.
Where were her clothes?
In the basement.
Is it a legal apartment in the basement?
Yeah, it's a regular house.
And you had a couple there living before?
Yes.
And how much was the rent before?
$600.
Okay.
Your Honor.
What?
There was also an extra bedroom downstairs in the basement that was never used while I lived there.
I don't care. I mean, I didn't get a legitimate answer from you, so I asked him. Okay. So you moved in May 13th, is that correct?
Yes.
How much was the loan for the motorcycle?
$3,100.
Okay, now you stole $100 from him in coins, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so now he owes you $3,000. You moved in on May 13th. When did you pay rent for the first time?
The actual, when I gave him the lump sum, I gave him $1,700 in July, and then 3 days after that, I gave him $600 for the rent that he claims...
Just a second. You gave him $3,000, according to you, for the motorcycle. I have deducted the $100 that you stole from him. You moved in May 13th. When did you pay rent for the first time? What month?
It would have been June, but my account closed.
So did you or did you not pay rent for June?
I did in July.
How many months did you live there?
Half of May, June, July. I moved out August.
When you moved out, did you take all your property?
No, I did not.
What property did you leave there?
My kitchen table, everything furnished his house. If I would have known...
Listen to me. Downstairs, in the basement, what items of furniture did you leave there?
A bed, a couch, and a TV.
Under what circumstances did you leave that stuff?
Because he threw me out. I had no key to the house. He threw me out. The end of August, I packed my bag. I stayed with a friend in Minneapolis.
Until when?
Until November 12th was when I moved out. I had surgery on my leg, November 10th.
Okay. Did you subsequently rent the basement to your townhouse?
I didn't rent my basement until January, I think, the first time I had somebody come in.
And when did you move out, Miss Beer? August what?
August 24th is when he bought the house.
So you owe him for 3.5 months' rent.
But he told me that my stuff was there in storage. If I wanted to, I could have put it in a storage, which was $85 a month.
I don't care if it was 80. I said you owe him so far 3.5 months' rent for the time you were living there. Half of May, June, July, and August. That's 3.5 months that you didn't pay. Or
Yes,
did you
I did.
pay?
Yes, I did, in July.
Did you pay him in July?
Yes, I
did.
did.
The check clear?
It was money orders that I had because he would only accept cash, which I agreed with that.
Well, because you gave him a bad check once.
It was a closed account.
Well, a closed account is a bad check. Did she subsequently pay you?
I have never seen that.
You've
Any
never
money?
seen the cash?
No, I
Okay,
did not.
so show me. Don't talk
Oh,
to
my
him.
God.
Talk to me. Show me what you claim you paid him for July.
July 24th, I paid him $1,700 cash because he said that these checks, which he had reserved
Show
one,
me.
I had cash. He wouldn't take anything but cash. And then 3 days later, I paid him for August rent, which was $600.
Did you own a townhouse?
Yes.
You're a businesswoman.
Yes,
If you
I'm
own a
real
townhouse,
estate
then you're a businesswoman. If you're a real estate agent and things aren't going well, then you don't give him cash. I don't believe that you gave him cash without a receipt. Did you get a receipt?
No, I did not.
Yeah, then I don't believe you.
I had a check that was revolving. This was
I
my
don't
business account.
believe you. You're a businesswoman, a real estate agent. Real estate agents don't pay cash for their rent, especially when they write out a check for a closed account. They may pay rent, and then they say, may I have a receipt, please, because I need that for my records.
Well, every single day that I came home, he would lock the door because I didn't have a
Then
key.
move out. Then move out. How old are you?
I tried. It costed me almost $700 to get a mover to come in there. If
My
I would
dear,
have known
you
that,
just told me you gave him $1,700 in cash.
I did.
If you didn't have a key to the house and things were miserable, then you move out.
he made my life miserable. As soon as I got there, I wanted to get out.
Very good. Is there any reason why you didn't rent that apartment after she moved out?
Well, at first, her stuff was in the way. I mean,
What
it's pretty...
stuff?
Oh, please,
Her
you used my
couch,
stuff.
What stuff?
Her couch, her bed.
Well, that's all right. You can move somebody in there. You rent it furnished. What?
Exactly, but she also said that while she was gone, that she just needed a month to get her stuff moved out. I said, all right, I'm gonna start charging you rent. Well, then it was 2
He
months
did
after
not.
that that her stuff was still there. So,
Okay.
I mean, yes,
it was
I finally
storage
did.
fee. If I would have known that, it would have been $85 a month to move my stuff into storage. He agreed to leave my stuff there until I could find a place to live.
That's fine. You still owe him for rent, which I don't believe you paid. What else?
And then when she did move out, I got damages of my doors.
Did you file a counterclaim, sir?
I did not.
Then I can't help you.
All right. But how about for my Harley-Davidson jacket that she took back from me?
You have a
threw it on the
counterclaim, sir?
garbage and said I didn't want it.
Am I speaking to you? Do you file a counterclaim, sir?
No, I did not.
Then I cannot help you.
Okay.
So far, you owe her $900
Okay.
on the loan. Got it?
Yep.
I've given you credit for 3.5 months' rent, which I don't believe she paid, and which she agreed to pay. Got it?
Okay.
Do you have your bike?
I have my bike.
Good. That's all. Thank you.
Deborah Didia is suing the father of her grandchildren, 23-year-old George Kwitek, for vandalizing her car. Deborah says during a fight with her daughter, George slammed the dashboard with his fist.
Mr. Dia, this is your daughter's former boyfriend, and it is your claim that he is responsible for ruining the dashboard on your car. He was in the car. You were not in the car. In the car was Mr. Kwitek and your daughter.
Yes.
He was the passenger. She was the driver. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Why don't you sit down? Daughter, stand up. We'll see if there's first any liability, and then if there is, we'll find out what the damages were. Jessica, how long were you and George a couple?
3 years.
Now, this whole argument, I gather, in the...
It was sometime in March.
Give me a date.
March 9th.
Thank you, George. This argument started, Jessica, I gather from George, because you had used a cell phone and ran up a bill of almost $900. Is that right, George?
Yes, ma'am.
And your mother was paying that bill?
No, I was.
But it's your mother's...
It was in my mother's name.
It was
yes,
in your
ma'am.
mother's name. So you were initially annoyed about the use of
I was
this...
very upset, ma'am.
Very upset. And I don't blame you. What kind of stupidity is that, to rack up a $900 phone bill?
Actually, it wasn't $900, and...
How much was it?
It was... I was only over my minutes, like, only a little bit, and we shared a family plan between me, him, his brother, and his sister, and between all of us, we racked up the bill. It wasn't just my cell phone.
What was yours?
Mine was probably about $100 over.
I mean, are you in business or anything? Is there any reason why you were $100 over your cell phone?
No, it was probably just text messages.
For 39 cents, you could send a letter. In any event, on March 9th, you had just gotten this bill. You were very annoyed. You were in the car with her. She was on the phone while driving. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. We had stopped to get...
She was on the phone while she was driving?
Yes, ma'am.
Was she actually moving when she was on the phone?
No, actually, we stopped at the gas station. She was on the phone, and then we started driving away, and that's when I told her to get off the phone. I was very rude about her getting off the phone, which is why we got into the argument.
You were rude?
Yes,
you
ma'am.
said something like, get off the...
effing phone, yes, ma'am.
So you didn't think I was that hip, whatever it is. Whatever it is that I am. And she said to you...
Don't talk to me like that.
So what did you do, Jessica?
Well, at the time, I was speaking to my mother on the phone. I was having an important conversation.
About what?
About my children.
You have children?
We have 2 kids together.
How old are your children?
One's 21 months and one's 9 months.
How old are you?
19. Well, I was having a conversation with my mother on the phone, and...
Well, just a second. Where were you coming from?
His mother's house.
What were you doing there?
Dropping my children off.
What day of the week was this?
It was a Tuesday.
What time?
Around 11.
A Tuesday at 11. Is that your day off?
No, ma'am. I was laid off from work due to the weather.
So why weren't you out collecting cans? You have 2 children.
I was...
You're just a... The answer is you never thought of it until I mentioned it to you. And it's a Tuesday at 11 o'clock in the morning. Were you off from work?
Well, we were going to look for an apartment, so yes, I was off work.
What kind of work do you do?
I was working with my mom doing payroll.
Doing payroll for what?
For companies. I do payroll data entry at her office.
She pays you, or the company pays you?
The company pays me.
Check or cash?
Check.
How much do you earn a week?
Probably about $300.
What do you do with the money?
I save it, and I pay bills with it.
Who takes care of your children?
His mother.
When he told you to get off the phone and was rude, did you hit him?
No.
What did you do?
At first, I hung up the phone with my mother, and I pulled over the side of the road because he was screaming and flipping out, and I wasn't going to. I pulled over, and I told him to get out of my car, and that's when he decided that he was going to bash my dashboard in.
Is that what happened, George?
To some extent.
Finish it.
Well, I didn't bash the dashboard. I just slammed my fist on the dashboard and caused a little crack on it and dented it a little bit. But what happened was she was driving and she yelled at me back, and she was driving recklessly. She pulled off the side of the road in an irrational manner and told me to get out the car. I told her I wasn't getting out of the car because I wasn't going to get stranded miles from home. And that's when she pursued to argue with me and run around the car, tell me to get out, ran inside the diner to call the cops. And at that point, that's when I decided to leave.
When Jessica got off the phone, she got really angry at me and started hitting and punching me. How come you left that out? Was that not important to you?
Well,
or was that a lie? Listen to me, George.
Yes, ma'am.
Look at me. Did you leave that out because when you wrote this, it wasn't true?
No, ma'am, it is true.
So why didn't you tell me that?
I don't think it was that important to the case.
At that point, I had every right to hit her back. However, I would never do that. That's your whole defense.
Yes, ma'am. That's when I turned into the dashboard.
I don't owe Deborah any money for the damaged dashboard. Her daughter was the one who instigated the incident. She was the one who started hitting me first. She's lucky that I'm not the type of man who would hit a woman. That was your whole defense. How come you left that out?
I have no idea.
You got to know how to do something, George, other than to make babies. Making babies is very easy.
Yes, ma'am.
Fish make babies, dogs make babies, cats make babies. Quiet! Polar bears make babies, parakeets make babies. It doesn't take any brains.
You're right.
Are you working now?
Yes, ma'am. I've been working for a year and a half in construction. Like I said, I was only laid off at the time because it was the winter time, and I was laid off because I work outside all day.
Are you two living together?
No.
Who are you living with?
I'm currently living with my mother until I leave to go into the Army.
And where are your children?
Living with me, with my mom.
And what's going to happen to them when you go into the Army?
My mom and their dad, George, decided that they wanted to share custody, and so they'll each take them for half the week until after I finish boot camp, and then they're going to come live with me.
Oh. How much is your dashboard? I have the estimate. You don't need any more babies, Jessica. You have enough children now for a very long time. Did your mother tell you that?
Yes.
Ditto. You have other children at home?
Yes, Your Honor.
How many?
I have 3 still living at home.
3? How old are they?
Two 17-year-olds and a 12-year-old.
How are you going to take care of these 2 babies when you have them?
Well, we own our own business, and me and my husband are going to take turns taking care of them, working opposite shifts during the day, and the other days his mom will have them. It's only for about 7 to 8 weeks.
Your mother stays at home?
Yes, ma'am.
Who supports the family?
My father does, and I do.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,622. That's all. Step out.
Daniel Henoyan says former friend Kaylin Cole owes for a loan to get her car out of impound.
Who is this?
This is my mother, Your Honor.
How old are you?
22.
And you, sir?
35.
You work in the same place of business?
At one time we did, yeah.
And I gather from reading your complaint, sir, that despite the fact that this young lady is much too young for you, you had a little crush on her.
A little bit, yeah. At one time, and then I found out her age.
And you needed some money because your car was in impound. How come you asked the plaintiff for a loan?
Well, I was at work one night, and I was frustrated because my car was impounded, and he had asked me what was wrong, and I told him.
What was your car doing impounded?
I'm not sure. I think I was, it was a charged. I was arrested, and my car was impounded.
What do you mean you're not sure? You think my car was arrested? I was arrested. My car was impounded. What kind of ridiculousness is that? I asked you a question. What was your car doing in impound?
I had been arrested.
There you go. For what?
They thought that my car was stolen, but it wasn't, in fact, and they impounded my car.
Who were you driving with?
A friend.
Male or female?
Male.
Was he arrested too?
No.
Just you?
Yes.
Who was driving?
I was.
How old is your friend?
I think he is 22.
So they found out that your car wasn't stolen?
Yes.
How long was the car in impound?
14 days.
You mean it took the police department 14 days to figure out that it wasn't stolen?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you speeding?
No. A cop had just saw me down the road and pulled me over.
How many children do you have? You have to think about that?
Two by birth, three, I have a stepson also. She's my oldest.
Is the younger one smarter?
Yes.
All right, so Mr. Hanoyan gave you money to get your car out of impound, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
According to your complaint, Mr. Hanoyan, now that I've sort of kneaded this case a little bit, I don't like slippery. You agreed to loan her the money.
Yes, I did.
And in exchange, she would allow you to have possession of the car. You didn't have the car at the time for 2 months, and within that 2-month period of time, she would return to you the $535, and you would give her back her car. That was your agreement.
That was the original
Is that
agreement.
right?
Yes, ma'am.
When did you give her the money?
On May 27th.
And when did she let you take the car?
On the same day, well, she drove it at first, but she eventually gave me the car.
And how long did you keep the car?
About 2.5 weeks.
What happened?
Well, one night she asked to borrow it.
What did she say?
She said, I need to go with my friends. She was always with this one crony girlfriend that she'd go and they'd go do an errand. She didn't say where or whatever, but then she came back. She was way late, and I was worried about she was going to take the car. I was trusting her the whole time. I was trusting her. She did bring back the original time. The second time she borrowed the car, she said she was going to pick up her mom from the Greyhound bus depot. Never saw her again after that. Never called, never called. I tried to reach her, and she just denied my calls and cussed me out and stuff like that.
Now, Miss Cole, you say you took the car back because?
I took the car back because Mr. Hanoyan had come over. He would come over like once or twice a week to show me the car, and he, in fact, in the contract said that he would fix the car, any damages, or keep up the oil, keep gas in it, tune up,
which I did.
all kinds. And every time he would come over, there, in fact, he hadn't gotten an oil change. I told him 3 times to get an oil change. Every time he came over.
You only had the car for a week?
No, he had the car for about a month.
No, that's a lie.
I took the car back about 2 weeks before the end of the contract.
How much money had you paid him?
I paid him about, I'd given him like $20 here, $40 there every time he would come over.
Miss
Probably
Cole,
about half.
Miss Cole, listen to me.
Yes.
You paid him nothing.
That's right.
Because if you had paid him something, you would have said so in your answer. So you paid him nothing.
No, I paid him like $20 here, $40 there every time he came over.
That's what you just said to me. I just told you you were a liar. Because in your answer, big long story, nowhere did it say you gave him any money. You get it?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, if you didn't like the way he was taking care of your car, you had every right to take it back. You still owe him the $535.
He did, in fact, breach his contract. He had told me that he had a driver's license. I actually have a copy.
What does that have to do? Listen to me. Listen to me. You did say, listen to me, madam, mother, the younger one is smarter, right?
Yes.
If you choose to take the car back because he did not have a driver's license, he wasn't taking good care of it, that's fine. You still owe him the money.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand?
Oh, I understand completely.
Did you try to explain it to her?
Yeah, I tried to explain it to her, but I was never clear on the entire situation. And
now you're clear.
Well, Dan was calling me.
He had the car.
Yeah.
The car was a mere perk for him. He was to keep the car, but she was to pay him. Keep the car for that 2 months. I was a thank you.
But
thank
he was calling me for the money way from the very beginning.
Well, because, listen to me, he shouldn't have called you.
No.
Shouldn't have called you, shouldn't have bothered you. But I want you to understand the agreement that your daughter had, because she's got this vacant look between her ears that frightens me. The car loan was a perk. Allowing him to use the car merely said, thank you for loaning me this money. I will pay you back. The fact that you took the car back because you didn't like the way he was taking care of them, that you don't have to pay him. Oh, I have to go now. Listen. Listen to me. If you hang around with babies, that's what's going to happen.
You're right.
She's a baby, not a very smart one. I don't know about you. Doesn't sound like you're very clever either. You get involved with somebody who's 22 years old.
Yeah.
22 years old at work doesn't sound too smart.
I made a mistake, that's for sure.
Well, it was a big mistake. Meanwhile, you're entitled to your $535 judgment for the plaintiff.
Thank you, Judy.
Parties are excused. You may step out.